Blackline Brief starts now.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Blackline Brief. I'm your host, Matthew McKim, and we got a great show lined up for you today. We got Stu Peters in the house. So he is on his way to the studio. He'll be here any minute. But I got other things to show you guys while we get settled in. While you guys do get settled in, please do me a favor and smash that like and hit that subscribe. And always make sure that you're still subscribed because, you know, YouTube be doing YouTube things. And you never want to miss out because like some of you guys saw last night, I did a pop-up late night live kind of recapping things and going over things. I mean, now that this is my full-time gig, trying to find different times to branch out and to reach more people. Also, if I have the energy and I feel like I have something I want to cover, then I want to do a show sometimes, or maybe I just want to hang out with y'all, which was it was a great show last night. If you haven't seen it, go back and check it out whenever you have the time. And then, yeah, so we got some things to cover. Erica Kirk was on the Bible in 365 show with James Cadiz today. Frank Turek did I don't know what you call it, a show, I guess, a podcast, whatever, an interview. There's that. So we got a couple things that we can look at while we wait for Stu to make it to the studio. Dude works like an animal, doing shows literally all day. And so this is like a favor that he does for people like me. He never has to do this show. He does it out of the goodness of his heart and the fact that he cares about this case. And he wants to make sure that good information and the truth gets out to as many people as possible. And given that he's banned from YouTube, the only way he can do it is by coming on shows like this. So we always are more than understanding when he's like, literally, I just watched his other stream like just end and he's rushing from one studio to the other. So he'll be here. We'll hold it down. All right. Let me read this. We got this from Aves. Questions. Let me lead with this. When Candace is away, the lunatics will play. I take breaks from, what is SM? Social media, dross. And I should have this week because insanity has ensued. Psalms 118:8. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man. That's a very good passage for this week and just for the time that we're in right now in general. Hopefully when, Candace and Baron are not doing shows, and hopefully this is another stop that you frequent. And I'm hopefully making it on the list of people's top shows. All right, let's see. Get your super chats in and we'll get to them as we go. And then I already said hit the like. So that's not the one I want to start with. This is 4426. Let's see. I think it starts a little bit before. I think it starts here, maybe. Let's start here.
Thank you.
Because nothing about it is.
I keep them. Yeah. It's just.
Face every day with them. And, we're praying for you.
Thank you.
Because nothing about it is.
I keep them. Yeah. It's all surreal.
You're doing a great job with them.
Surreal. Thank you. I love them so much. I see so much in Charlie in them. It's just really, really sweet. But yeah, one day at a time.
Yeah. God's faithful. He's good. And I think oftentimes one of the best parts of God's faithfulness and goodness, and I was thinking about it because my daughter, my 3-year-old, was asking me about my mom, who she never met.
Yeah.
And
it is 44. Hold on. I forgot. She just says that one part and then he talks for a minute and then it actually starts at like 44. We'll start right here.
Yeah. It was a few nights ago. Gigi and I were laying in bed.
And I want you guys to tell me your honest opinion, your read on this, okay? Tell me what you see. All right?
And she was like, his daddy's still running errands with Jesus. And I was like, yeah, baby. And she was like, is he in heaven? And I was like, of course, daddy's in heaven. And she goes, well, I want to go to heaven right now. And I was like, I understand, baby. I was like, I know. And then I've just been waiting for this question.
Wait, hold on. Let me let Stu in because Stu's here. Let's see. What up, Stu? There you are.
What's going on?
Not much. Okay, let me set this up real quick. I was just holding it down while you made it to your studio. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, dude. I appreciate it. You work so hard, and I know you don't have to do this, and so I genuinely appreciate it every time that you do.
Yeah, man, no problem.
I just want to finish playing this clip. It's a very short clip. Erica was on Bible in 365 today with James Cadiz. I was playing this while we were waiting for you, and I'm just going to finish it, and then that'll be done with the clips.
And you try to brace yourself for it, you just can never. And she said, well, how did daddy get to heaven?
Oh.
And I didn't know what to say. I just said, he prayed, and he prayed. And he asked for Jesus to be in his heart. And she looked at me and she was so determined. She's like, well, I'm going to pray and I'm going to pray and I'm going to pray. And then I'm going to get to go to heaven too. And I was like, that's right, baby.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard.
These past few weeks have just been brutal. And it's only going to get harder in the next few. But God is so good.
Coming up.
Yeah, my daughter explained. Yeah, my daughter asked me.
I don't know why she always does some of the stuff that she does, man. It just throws me off. It's so performative. I mean, I'm trying not to be overly critical and overly judgmental, but I don't know. It just always, it doesn't sit right with me. Some of the things, most of the things that she says and does, but yeah.
Well, I mean, what are your thoughts on Israel and its relationship to the United States government and to organizations like Turning Point USA?
Frick, dude. Wholly inappropriate, completely unethical, not constitutional. Like they shouldn't be involved. They shouldn't be able to give the money that they give to our to politicians. They shouldn't be involved in our politics at all. BB shouldn't be coming here 6 times in a year. Our military shouldn't be merged. We don't have a formal agreement with them at all. They're not our ally, like at all. They're dragging us into wars. They're giving us false intel, WMDs. They're 2 weeks away from a bomb. And then, you have Salem Media, Havas Media, Clock Tower X. It's the Foreign Ministry of Israel that's propagandizing and geo-tracking and tagging Christians and churches and schools and all these Make Heaven Crowded and TPUSA events. It's disgusting, dude. It's freaking, and they're part of it.
So by extension, what are your thoughts on Talmudic Judaism and, like the spiritual conquest aspect of all of that?
I think it's demonic. I think it's evil.
So you recognize that, like, all of this between Jeffrey Epstein, Mossad operations, Turning Point USA, the people who, effectively the people who built Turning Point USA, all of this revolves around Talmudic Judaism and the conquest of Greater Israel and all of the work that they have to do in order to achieve their goals and their benchmarks for success. And that makes all of that performative stuff a whole lot easier to understand, at least for me.
That's a good point.
Because when you know the root of and the cause of and the goals of an entity that won't stop until they're stopped. I mean, these people are literally agreeing to mutual self-destruction before they will allow their agenda to be stopped. And it used to be that I thought that this is, well, they're going to do this until they're exposed. They have to be exposed. They don't care.
No, they don't.
They don't care. And they don't care. And all of this hubris is a result of the cover that these people have. Blake Neff doesn't have to answer me as to where he was on September 10th, 2025, between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time, because he has the entire apparatus behind him. And, I think, at least it's my opinion from where I sit, that there is, a certain sense of urgency among the rank and file, because to me, it appears like, and I'm basing this on nothing other than what I've been able to observe with my own eyes, the research that I've done, the things that I have discussed, the agendas that I've seen playing out. But it would appear to me that there is kind of a hierarchy, and that there is almost certainly going to have to be a fall guy. There's always a fall guy for everything.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably a jockeying for power positions inside of this hierarchy right now. This is why you see Andrew Colvett going to the White House and having meetings with Miriam Adelson and Donald Trump and Turning Point USA attorneys, on the heels of flight data and on the heels of Google image searches and Fort Huachuca heat being turned up and Jacob Recess deciding that he's going to leave the government. And, that's JD Vance's chief of staff. And JD Vance continues, obviously, to be at the center of all of this. But, I don't even necessarily know how in the know JD Vance himself was or really needed to be. Because remember, all of these people are actors. It's not just Erica Kirk that's performative. It's literally all of them.
Right.
All of them are reading the lines from the script. And that includes JD Vance. He is a creation. And that's evidenced by the fact that, before JD Vance was Donald Trump's vice president, he was a MAGA endorsed senator. Before he was a MAGA endorsed senator, he was writing books and releasing them about how irredeemable you were if you were a white person living in the mountains and supported Donald Trump. Before that, he went on a whole tour talking about how he was a never Trumper. And we're talking about a matter of months. We're not talking about somebody who honestly and objectively looked at everything that Donald Trump and the Donald Trump agenda had to offer and said, oh, you know what? I think that these ideologies are something that I've been missing my entire life, and I now need to adopt them. What this is, here are the new lines on your script. This is where the power is. This is where the influence is. And these are the lines that you have to read. And they were handed to him by his creators. His creators, you could talk about Alex Karp, Peter Thiel. The ushering in of the AI-driven Palantir profile super surveillance hellscape. And all of that centers around an objective. And if you're unwilling to read the lines anymore, well, there are several ways that this can be approached. Number one, we can try to lure you back in with the promise of access, proximity, power, influence, prominence. We can try to lure you back in by way of money and lifestyle and glitz and glam and pyrotechnics and fireworks and the protection of the machine. Or we can just get rid of you. And getting rid of you could be multifaceted as well. They got rid of Thomas Massey. They spent $30 million at least. That's what we see publicly facing anyways. They probably spent more than $100 million to get rid of a United States congressman in a rural district of Kentucky. We'll spend God knows how much time gaining compromat on or working up a dossier on the children and the family and the locations and the schools of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then just overtly threaten her family and push her out. Cynthia McKinney is living in exile in Bangladesh. JFK took a bullet to the head. Charlie Kirk took a lav mic to the chest. So it's just there's a very obvious agenda. And once you start to realize the illegitimacy of these bodies of government, the Israeli government, the United States government, these entities are just basically WWE wrestling, Hollywood theatrical presentations. And what they really are is obviously murderous, organized, corporate, private, government partnership crime syndicates, rackets, and that racket and that extortion and that compromat, it all thrives on the greater Israel agenda. And it's all fed by fear and greed. And these people have, a lot of both, because they are not men and women of moral character. They are not men and women of principles and truth and values and morals.
Yeah.
They stand on nothing. They don't stand on truth. Look at Andrew Wilson. Just look at these people just recently. In fact, I just commented on this. I think it was last night. Somebody was playing, I think it was, what is that? Mitchell Manley. It just had it on Artifacts.
Memoir. Yeah.
Yes. And he had some Cash Patel, we have to serve Israel. We have to make Israel our number one priority. And that isn't shocking to me, obviously. But what was shocking to me is the physical appearance of these people is even deteriorating. I mean, people laugh about Mar-a-Lago face, but it's true.
Yeah.
These people look sickly. His face looks fat. Erica Kirk has a pig face. Pete Hegseth, Sean Hannity. All of these, they all look sickly and they look empty and they look. Blake Neff, Andrew Colbert looks like he hasn't slept for weeks, and he probably hasn't. Yeah. And he's flying back and forth between Santa Barbara and Phoenix and, Tucson, whatever. I mean, these people are flying all over. They're scrambling. They're doing everything that they can to hold on to these satanic desires driven by fear and greed.
Did you know? So in the wake of the assassination, Andrew Colbert sold his house in Santa Barbara. He lives in Arizona ever since the fall of 25, but he also has a place in DC. He's spending 50% of his time in DC. They have a new pop-up studio there. It's called the Embassy. And it was who was the big donor? It was the biggest single donation ever to Turning Point. It was like $10 million or something like that. I feel like the last name starts with a B. It's not the Foster Freeze family, but because in the wake of the assassination, a bunch of people at Turning Point USA got jobs at the Pentagon. And now Andrew's out there holding.
We just reported on the fact that Blake Neff is the one who placed Sarah Rogers at the Pentagon.
Yes.
She's now the Undersecretary of State. So not at the Pentagon, but he did effectively place her at the Pentagon, because prior to being the Undersecretary of State, she was serving, and then this Data Republican.
Yep.
Yeah. These people, Jenica, help me out here. I can't believe I'm blanking on this. Jenica Pounds.
Yes.
Jenica Pounds, Sarah Rogers. The common denominator is Blake Neff. Blake Neff, this little bald-headed weasel, effeminate. I'm going to watch my language because I know what platforms we're on here. Yeah. But this guy is doing wargaming for the United States Marine Corps.
I know.
And placing government officials in the State Department, and brokering relationships between citizen journalists and the Pentagon. And I reported on this too. What we know about the Trump administration and Pete Hegseth is that those Pentagon press credentials are highly coveted.
Yes.
They are seriously protected. You don't get them unless you are a serious propagandist.
Yep.
You don't get them unless you are a devout, serious, pro-Zionist, pro-war, Israel-loving, sellout neocon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these people are they are all in. Because they get promised these things. And coming from a first-person perspective, I can reflect on this a little bit, because these sets of circumstances actually presented themselves to me during COVID-19. And I don't know if I told you this. I've told you about some other things personally, and I'm an open book. I'll talk about anything that you want to talk about. I will name names. I'll burn it all down. I don't even care.
Okay.
But, when I was going through the COVID stuff, that is where most of my audience actually came to know what a Stu Peters show actually even was. Nobody had heard of me before then. I was a bounty hunter for, over a decade. And it was during the George Floyd COVID-19 stuff that kind of, I bubbled up. I worked hard. I provided content. I did a ton of research. I had all the experts on. It was the place to be. The place was blowing up. The network, of course, it was blowing up. My name was becoming more of a household name during COVID-19. The film projects that I was involved with or adjacent to, the daily broadcast, the La Quinta columna graphene oxide findings, the findings of the patent for the pegylated lipid nanoparticle weapon of biowarfare that was in every single one of these vials, in all these clot shots. And of course, all of this comes back to Donald Trump, right? Operation Warp Speed. And it was really a fascinating time, really, to look at what was happening with the cooperation between the federal government and its media apparatus. And at this point, that's when I really learned that they are really one and the same.
Yep.
And, Turning Point USA is like the perfect embodiment of that, because it was a creation to be the mouthpiece for Greater Israel. It was, the creation to be the mouthpiece of the Judeo-Christian values fallacy. It was the mouthpiece of the left versus right paradigm, and to keep people fighting and at each other's throats horizontally rather than ever looking vertically. But during this time of COVID-19, I was going hard on President Trump. And that was an unpopular position for people to take. And I took that position because I don't have loyalty to men. I don't have loyalty to messaging. I don't have a loyalty to a party. I don't have a loyalty to a movement. I don't have a loyalty to a faction or a clique or a group of people. My loyalty is to Jesus Christ and the truth.
Yep.
And it was at that time that I was receiving several phone calls, actually, from people who were in close proximity to Donald Trump. One of them was actually General Michael Flynn. And there was basically an offer made. Along with an offer from Salem Media, there were offers of, and this is in the wake of Rush Limbaugh's death, and so his name was thrown around about having even a bigger platform than Rush Limbaugh ever had, and 1,600 radio stations, and really propelling the network, and highlighting the good work that we're doing, and then access to Mar-a-Lago, and access to the Trump administration, and invites to the dinners, and all of these things. And the ask was, could you please just try to separate Donald Trump from the shots? But they're inextricably linked, of course, and everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But there was like this safeguarding that was done in the propaganda, the programming, the brainwashing, the deflection, the projection, all of these things. The PSYOP was like in full force, especially for the faction of MAGA enthusiastic loyalists that would not leave Donald Trump, no matter what. Case in point, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I highly respect now. In fact, I just sent her a DM the other day, kind of telling her this. And, it was at this time that I was really hard on her. Well, she was firmly entrenched, and everybody who's being honest will acknowledge this.
Yeah.
She gave up a whole decade of her life to support Donald Trump, no matter what he did. It was undying, blind loyalty. And to a certain extent, I respect that, until it becomes obvious that this op that he is like the lead actor in this op.
Yeah.
And that, really, if you want to be honest, at the time that he came down the golden escalator in 2015 and announced his candidacy for president, he was already bought and paid for. We can talk about all of the ways that he was bought and paid for, whether it's the Rothschilds bailing him out of bankruptcy, whether it's his relationship to Epstein and Paolo Zampoli, another Epstein associate who introduced Melania to Donald Trump, whether it was the procurement of young women for the Donald Trump Miss USA pageants. There were a lot of things. I don't know what the guy is on tape doing. I can speculate.
Yeah.
I don't know if those tapes are here, if Pam Bondi has seen them, why she had to get out. I don't know why everybody who read the contents of Anthony Weiner's laptop committed suicide. I can't say for certain objectively. But what I do know is, in addition to all of that, Sheldon Adelson had already been into Donald Trump for $100 million.
Yeah.
The private equity oligarchs that enjoy their headquarters on Rothschild Boulevard in Tel Aviv own the notes on all of Donald Trump's real estate.
Yeah.
If his basis points are increased by what, a quarter of a point, a quarter of a basis point, it's out of business time. And the Rothschilds aren't going to be there to bail you out of bankruptcy this time. They had a gun to his head in every single way. And that's not even to mention the threats on his physical safety. I believe that they showed him very early on that they're able to put shooters and killers in his immediate proximity, that near misses are able to happen. And by no means am I suggesting, by the way, that any of the assassination attempts that we have recently seen during this administration were legitimate by any means at all, because I believe that they're fake and gay 100%. You could argue with me if you have a different viewpoint.
No, I agree.
But I think that's all theater. And I think, though, that threat is really real. And, Marjorie Taylor Greene, since leaving, has made it very clear that her children's well-being was threatened.
Yep.
And she texts Donald Trump, expecting the man who she had given up 10 years plus of her life for to intervene, to use the weight of the government and its federal law enforcement apparatus to push back on this, to identify who was levying these threats against the safety of her children, to make arrests.
Yeah.
That's an arrestable offense. It's called terroristic threats.
Yeah.
And instead, his response to her was, you shouldn't have done that, Marge. You have put them in this position by refusing to remove your name from the discharge petition, for refusing to back down from standing up for the victims of the world's most prolific child sex trafficking PDF file.
Yeah.
That is why he was willing to stand by while her kids were harmed.
Yep.
So when you start to realize all of this, and then you reflect on a clip like the one that you were just playing, a woman who's talking about celebrating the death of her husband with her children, a woman who's excited to tell her children about daddy's experience in heaven.
Yeah.
And if you notice when she talks about her sovereign God, do you ever notice this weird language that these people use, their sovereign God?
Yeah.
Every time she utters these words, there's this reptilian twitch in her face, in her eyes. And it's this, and it's this. So we did what we always do. We prayed.
Yes. Yes.
To our sovereign God.
Yeah.
I mean, these people are sick. They're psychopaths.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised at all to see those clips. And I think that, overwhelmingly, when you remove people who are paid or are otherwise benefiting to prop up the FBI and federal government's official narrative surrounding the death of Charlie Kirk, when you take out people who are clearly being paid, people who are being rewarded with influence, people who are being promised the attachment to the machine of protection, people who are making deals, people who are setting up shell organizations and companies and pressure groups and LLCs and nonprofits and tax exempt, skeleton corporations so that they can funnel money and siphon it out of the taxpayer's pocket through the DC Beltway, through the military industrial complex and defense contractors like Boeing and Raytheon, who, by the way, Kent France is directly connected to by way of his founding of Raytheon Israel Ltd.
Yep.
The military industrial complex, direct connection when he procured the funding for the Iron Dome,
yep.
which from where I sit looks to be a fairy tale and completely fake, because I guess low IQ goat herders on hang gliders can just, come in and have their way with Palestinian or with Israelis for as long as they want to at dance parties.
Yeah.
And then her mother's connections to the military industrial complex through her defense contracting work at Fort Huachuca.
Yeah.
And it just goes on and on. Blake Neff, speaking of this guy who seems to have amnesia for that 1 hour, and we know why.
Yeah.
I know why. And soon the whole world will know why. And I've seen a lot of speculation, and a lot of people are absolutely correct. And soon everybody will not be able to refute what Blake Neff was doing the morning of September 10th.
Good.
But when you consider a guy like that, and what we just talked about, his association to Jenica Pounds, a Pentagon mouthpiece who now has an official taxpayer job as a special government employee who doesn't want to talk about it. And she says, well, you can just refer to the PR guy at the Pentagon if you have any more questions. And then you look at Blake Neff's relationships to Sarah Rogers, and he like pushed her into the State Department, and she's now the Undersecretary of State. And these things happen immediately in the wake of the death of Charlie Kirk. And you look at in the same lens, his connection to Fort Huachuca via his relative, Captain Neff, who was responsible for detaining and questioning Mitch Snow on that fateful day or pair of days between the 8th and 9th, when he saw Erica Kirk in the Candlewood and In Suites lobby with a guy who looked a whole hell of a lot like Cabot Phillips. And in the perfect procurement pipeline from the Google image searches, you have this guy called Martin Kindle. I can't share my screen and pull up a picture of this guy right now, but maybe you can.
I can.
Martin Kindle looks exactly like Blake Neff. I mean, if there were ever to be, or excuse me, like Cabot Phillips, and if there were ever to be a perfect doppelganger, which only continues every single time that somebody starts talking about Fort Huachuca, it comes out that Mitch Snow is more and more vindicated. It turns out that Mitch Snow is more and more authenticated. And I know a lot of people who say, you know, be careful with that Mitch Snow. Can anybody tell me why, though? Can anybody tell me how his information, because this is the only first-person eyewitness testimony in this entire case thus far. It is the only eyewitness in the entire case. Can anybody tell me why somebody would question the things that Mitch Snow says that he saw in those days, given everything that has come to light since? Because from where I sit, it looks like he only continues to get more and more corroborated as we learn who was on these special air mission flights, who was being Google image searched from Fort Huachuca. And then you find out that it's a relative of Blake Neff that was responsible. Like, how far did the family ties go?
Yeah.
How far out do the tentacles of the octopus reach? And now Andrew Kovac has relatives that work on Fort Huachuca too.
Right.
And this is the guy who was saying some fort in Tucson.
Yeah.
What is a Fort Huachuca?
Yes.
Intentionally and mispronouncing it. They still do it. Fort Chuchaca, says
Yes.
Andrew Wilson. They're intentionally doing that because that's part of the humiliation ritual while they shove it in your face.
Yeah.
These people know exactly what happened. It's completely disingenuous when they try to represent that you have no positive evidence for anything. And all they do is continue to recite this fairy tale of a transgender, furry-loving, lazy-eyed sniper who acted like Spider-Man.
Right.
And, you know, like, what about the guy that they say was coming down the stairwell? Like, we already see that the guy in the parking garage was clearly a whole lot more buff and is left-handed, and it's definitely not Tyler Robinson.
Right.
And then what about the guy in the stairwell? I think that there were multiple patsies, multiple clones. The
I think
color
there
of the
was like 3
day
or
was
4.
maroon.
Yeah.
I believe the same thing. And the guy that was coming down the stairs, well, Tyler Robinson is chinless, and that guy has a chin.
Yep.
Like, when is anybody going to start talking about those things?
Yep.
But that's not positive evidence. You have to be held to a different level, a different burden of truth. You have to prove that somehow Erica Kirk and Blake Neff and Mikey McCoy had foreknowledge. Well, I would like to see the reaction of, you know, if Gary Melton were in combat, and, you know, if there's any footage of him being in combat, because he says that he was in combat, I don't have any reason to disbelieve that he was in combat. The reaction of, you know, like a unit when they come under unexpected fire, when they're being ambushed. It's not, all right, guys, see you later.
Right.
That isn't the reaction.
Right.
You know, the reaction is not to look away from your comrade, your brother in arms, your brother in Christ, your best friend, your boss, your employer, your commander, your platoon leader, your sergeant major. It's not your reaction to just like calmly walk away unless you knew that it was coming.
Yeah.
Isn't that positive evidence that there's something more to this?
I think so.
We have all kinds of positive evidence that lies have been told. A fake alibi, somebody else's kids, wrong day. Rob McCoy, Mikey acted heroically. He was covered in blood. These people just talk too much. Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk never said, my husband never said that he was being threatened. He never said that he feared for his life. He never said, he was never sending any messages to anyone saying that he feared someone killing him. Then here comes Andrew Wilson. Hold on, you're a liar, Erica, because I have this Telegram group message with this American flag that I'm going to represent is Charlie Kirk, saying that he fears, he is somewhat concerned about the left trying to kill him.
Yeah.
Is that positive evidence? Because I don't see a name, I see an American flag.
Right.
And then we saw the other Charlie Kirk, great work by Sam Parker, by the way. We see the other actual Charlie Kirk messages that show his name. So are these two different Telegram accounts? Was somebody else operating a Telegram account representing that it was Charlie Kirk? And if so, who was that? The only person that would know that would be Erica Kirk, who like real cocky-like and real arrogant-filled way says, yeah, I know this because I have his phone.
Yeah.
Another anomaly. Since when does the significant other or spouse of a murder victim have possession of the victim's phone? When in every other case, virtually, they are the prime, immediate, number one suspect.
Yep.
And within hours of the most consequential political assassination of my lifetime, that woman, who would in any other case be the number one suspect, has the phone of Charlie Kirk. I mean, none of this surprises me at all. To watch these people behaving like this is just, it's expected at this point.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I don't know if you saw, I had texted you. So in the new documentary that Blake Neff and Andrew Colvett did, it was paid for and produced by Foster Freeze's wife. And it was, it was through Angel Studios. Blake Neff actually admits that he lobbied for members of the administration to Charlie Kirk at Mar-a-Lago as they were picking cabinet members and people to be in this administration. He says it on that video. He admitted it, and that those people are still there right now.
I don't know if I saw it. I was just looking back for it. I'm sorry, man. My phone is...
No, you're good.
It's crazy. The amount of notifications that I get. So no, do you have a clip of it?
Yeah. So you have to pay. My membership lapsed. It's hidden behind a paywall. It's on Angel Studios. I can, when I, log off later, I could get it and I'll send it to you. But it's during the middle. He's talking about being down at Mar-a-Lago with Charlie Kirk, and that he's lobbying to Charlie to then go lobby to Trump to have specific people be on this administration, and that he says, and they got selected and they're still there right now.
So how many of them are there?
I don't know.
And the other thing too, and the curious question for me, of course, because of my history with Blake Neff, is I would really like to know for sure if it was Tucker who introduced Blake Neff to Charlie. And I don't know what Tucker has said about that. Some people have clocked that, yeah, it was him. And that there's this narrative out there that's what happened. But I have suspicions that somebody else was involved in that as well. This is a person who just at like the peak of momentous movement of anybody who has a public facing broadcast, here he comes. From Tucker to the Stu Peters show to Charlie Kirk and Turning Point, at all of these pivotal, politically consequential times, here comes Blake Neff. And that's been increasingly curious to me. And of course, I have probably somewhat of a bias just based on the fact that, I feel more closely attached to that situation. So I would really like to definitively know that, but I'll concede that I don't really know that we ever will, because we're dealing with prolific liars.
Yeah.
Who, these people will tell the truth, or they will lie when telling the truth would suit them better. I was just thinking as you were talking about that video and that like admission, I guess you would call it, that these people are literally deciding who's in the cabinet, who's adjacent to the president, who's controlling and commanding the military. How does Pete Hegseth end up where he's at? He was having like breakfast with boomers at 4:30 in the morning on the Fox News channel, and now he's running the Pentagon. Kash Patel is like, I mean, what what qualifications does Kash Patel have to be the leader of the national law enforcement apparatus?
None.
What qualifications does Dan Bongino have to serve as his deputy?
None.
And then they come out of this cyclical Fox News channel, CIA breeding ground into the presidential administrations. And this is nothing new, of course. You remember dating back to, I mean, you could go all the way back, but, you know, in recent memory, you know, Dana Perino, she was a war criminal propagandist for George W. Bush.
Yep.
And, you know, you've got Judge Janine Pirro, Pete Hegseth, Dan Bongino. The list just goes on and on of these like Fox News characters that are just, you know, like they're just placed into their different role. And now it's time to read the script over here. And this is what you're doing. But in thinking about what you were presenting, it's just amazing, isn't it? When you think about all of the anomalies, all of the lies, all of the inconsistencies, all of the coincidences, all of the strange timing and power broker moves, and everything that come back to the people who were closest to Charlie Kirk and all of the things that they have been involved with. And because this has become, without question, the largest crowdsourced, independent citizen journalist, you know, investigation, I think in all of world history, just by virtue of having
The
access to the internet.
Yeah.
You know, I just think of how many different things there are. You know, you have Diligent Dennison doing the Panguitch receipt. You have, you know, Alley Top Files, yourself. I mean, and these are just like Ana Escobar, Baron Coleman, Candace, of course, you know, some of the blue check marks and like massively big accounts that everybody understands and knows. Their household names, but there are so many that are emerging, and who are doing just like a fantastic work in all of this. I would be here all night if I tried to name them all or recall them all.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm missing people, and that's not intentional. Of course, I'm not leaving anybody out because, again, I'm not part of cliques or factions or groups. There's nobody that, you know, that really kind of wishes to hang out with me, to be honest with you. I'm not invited to those parties. And those roundtable discussions, like what was his name, Brandon Straka just had, where I thought Buckley Carlson did a really good job. Outside of him, I didn't really understand the cast of characters that were there, other than you know, other than sellout traders and Jews. They were present for sure. But then you have, you know, a list of people that really haven't spent a whole lot of time every day really digging into this. It wasn't like, you know, people who are doing long form investigating and broadcasts on this topic every day and who've had access to, you know, a litany of information on a constant basis. But I thought that, you know, despite that, I think Buckley is a well-intentioned person.
I agree.
I thought that he did a really good job asking the most obvious questions about the most obvious anomalies and the most obvious lies that have been told and inconsistencies. But, you know, this is what you see, though. You see these factions of people vying for and jockeying for relevancy. In this case, I'm not airing Buckley Carlson on that by any means at all. I'm not throwing shade, but it's the Straka types and all of the Viva Fries. Like, where did you come from all of a sudden?
Gary Melton.
And these people, they want to weigh in now. And it's like, this is a very obvious op. And these are very obviously people who are either assets willingly or unwittingly, you know, to the federal apparatus, or they're just blatantly paid feds.
Yeah. Watching Harrison Smith do absolutely nothing. The Gabriella Cucilla girl didn't contribute very much. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. And then the one that really threw me off was freaking Alex Stein. What the heck was he doing there? And he was on that side. It was so.
Is that a rhetorical question?
Yeah. No, I know.
Stein.
So yeah, it was so dumb, dude.
What bothered me about Harrison Smith is, and it still bothers me, and, you know, look, I understand the people that we're dealing with.
You're right.
You know, believe me, I really do. And I understand, you know, like what they're capable of.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, anybody who's being objectively honest would pause at putting themselves in a situation where they know that imminently, you know, they could be putting themselves or their family, their young children into immediate danger. I serve Jesus Christ. God tells me not to be fearful, but also doesn't command me to be reckless,
Right.
Or stupid. And I'm hoping that there is some sort of an approach here, but it is Harrison Smith's tweet that has become, notorious, I would say. That was, it was posted months ahead of Charlie Kirk's death, where he was saying that he was concerned that Israel was going to kill him, and that if he somehow ended up dead, that it would have been Israel that did it. And I can't remember exactly how it was worded by Harrison Smith. I'm paraphrasing, but that was the message.
That's the gist of it.
Yeah. And these weren't messages that came out in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death. There was really no upside. In fact, it didn't even go viral. It didn't trend. It didn't do well. Nobody really paid attention to it.
Yeah.
Right. But I think, now it's probably pretty critical to know
who that was.
Who was the source of that? And aside from that, I couldn't really figure out what it was that Harrison contributed to that conversation. And again, this is not coming from a place of like, I'm, throwing a bunch of shade at Harrison. I do disagree with some of Harrison's tactics, especially in dealing with a situation involving me and Alex Jones. But I also can appreciate the fact that AJ is his boss. And, look, if you're just talking about how men, operate, I operate differently, of course, because I own my own thing. I don't work alongside anybody as far as having a business partnership. I don't have anybody that I need to answer to. Or rely on or depend on for a paycheck. And so, I get the loyalty thing. I disagree with the way that Harrison handled that. And I more so appreciate the way that, Owen Schroyer handled his differences with Alex Jones. I think that was a really stand-up thing. I really enjoy Owen Schroyer. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a man of moral character. I think he does really fantastic work. I enjoy his podcast. It's one of the few pods that I actually listen to and watch as often as I can.
Right.
I like his takes. I think he has good insight. And so, I think it's just, at this point, anybody who's got a shred of discernment is able to kind of pick these people out, because they in fact, when you shine lights at them, they reflect.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Harrison Smith, now we're at a point, especially with the whole stupid Andrew Wilson text and, the Charlie was afraid of the left, it looks like a fake text anyway. The Telegram, but there comes a point where him not telling the source of that message is doing so much more harm than good. And I think he's gone this far. I don't think he'll ever share. I don't know that he'll ever share the source of that.
I think there was at some point some statement, or he had said something alluding to the fact that he had turned it over to some sort of law enforcement agency. And I don't know if that would mean local, county, state, federal, none of whom I trust. But I think that there is something to be said about putting these people on notice and having it documented. In the case of Diligent Dennison and his work in Panguitch, he is serving the parties to this criminal proceeding. It was my opinion that I think he should also put on notice the proper law enforcement authorities in the Panguitch area, local police, the sheriff, and the Utah state authorities, saying, hey, this is evidence. And I think that it's relevant to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Here's why I believe that it's relevant, because this guy who is the owner of this restaurant, these people who say that they served him, these witnesses who say that they saw him, claim that this is a receipt from a steak that he bought. His name is Tyler Robinson. You may know him. He's been arrested and he's being prosecuted in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And this would contradict what we're being told, and we believe that it should be admitted into, that there should be an investigation into whether or not this is a legitimate receipt. In that area, by the way, flock cameras were fully functional in March of 2025. Law enforcement has at its disposal, very certain mechanisms to be able to determine whether or not Tyler Robinson was there. They also have the authority of subpoena. Administrative subpoena through law enforcement. They can push on these people to say, hey, we want to know from the merchant if in fact that card belonged to Tyler Robinson. you know.
Yep.
It's pretty easy for them to determine whether or not this is real, but the sheer panic that it has caused and the way that the disinformation, machine has come out to attack that. And if you want to know what's real evidence, just look at what they focus on. If you want to know what they're scared of, just look at what they focus on, which is why Gary Melton is hosting entire spaces with my name in the headline.
Yeah.
Because he's scared.
Yeah.
It's why Blake Neff runs down from the speaker spot to the listener spot within 5 minutes of me showing up using an alternate account to get into a space that I saw Blake Neff in after having been blocked on my regular daily use account from entering that space. They were premeditatedly saying, we don't want anything to do with the questions that Stu Peters is going to pose should he come onto this stage. So, and then I guess last night my phone was again blowing up with notifications. Hey, Gary Melton is hosting a space, and they were sending me screenshots of what the title was. And they were saying, later on, now he's inviting you in. I mean, I got these texts this morning. That was like midnight last night. Like, now he's inviting you in. I have no desire to exchange dialogue with Gary Melton. And the only reason I was in one of his piece of shit spaces to begin with is because I saw that Blake Neff was in there because my phone was blowing up. Blake Neff is in a space. Like, I won't have to chase you around if you would just tell everybody where you were. And I'm really tired of getting this, I don't owe you anything. I'm really tired of these people, these disingenuous hacks on X getting up in my replies telling me, oh, Turning Point doesn't owe you anything. No, they do. Because, Charlie Kirk built that organization that they are now trashing and ruining the legacy of by mischaracterizing who it was that Charlie Kirk was while he was alive and, defaming him effectively without him being able to defend himself by saying that he was like this devout Zionist. In fact, a Jew, basically. They were saying that he was effectively Jewish by celebrating and recognizing the Jewish Shabbat Shalom, throw down the phone, daddy's home. Yeah, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Glenn Beck called him a rabbi when he was on the Charlie Kirk show.
He did. Yeah. This group of people absolutely owes an explanation. Charlie Kirk was assassinated in front of 3,000 people in live attendance in front of the entire world on a 4K live stream. Yep. These are the people who should be pounding their fists the hardest. These are the people who should be picking up their bullhorns, banging down, kicking down doors at every government entity and installation and, agency all across this country demanding answers because everybody knows that Tyler Robinson didn't shoot Charlie Kirk with a 30-06. Like, read the room. Right. We know. The Goyim know.
Yeah. Wait, don't you know though? Blake Neff wasn't a witness though. Don't you know that? It's like
he just walked away calmly.
Not only that, he had no business being there. He has no recollection of what he did that whole day, let alone that night where it looks like it might have been him inside of a dark charcoal Challenger with maybe Danny Phillips and two other people that get caught on that doorbell camera footage that they say the Nobles, which are a married family that has no reason to lie, that they see a middle-aged bald white guy and three occupants get out of the car, not a Tyler Robinson. And, David Hull conveniently leaves that out of his testimony when he's on the stand. And then when crossed about it from Catherine Nestor, he goes like, oh, yeah, that's what they think they saw. Yet they want us to believe that Lance Twiggs is the most, the best star witness and that we should trust everything he says is gold. Blake Neff walking away without even, so he turned his back to Charlie. He didn't turn towards Charlie. Charlie hadn't hit the ground. Dan Smith hadn't shoved him off the chair yet. Before Charlie hits the ground, Blake Neff and Mikey McCoy in 0.83 seconds are briskly walking, possibly into gunfire. They have no clue that there's only one round done. They don't know that there's another threat around the corner. They don't duck. They don't hide. They don't scream. They just calmly walk that way.
You know what I want to know? I want to know where the surveillance footage of that parking lot is during the hours and during the time frame that I'm asking about. Where is that? Where were they? What were they doing? What were they setting up? When did they exactly arrive? And I'm pretty damn certain that I know the answers to these questions, but you know what? It's really, really important that these people are on the record saying where they were and what they were doing. Why is it so hard? Innocent people do not behave like this. And I know that Blake Neff watches every single episode of every single pod that I do, every single interview that I'm on, every time I'm welcomed as a guest, every time I go on the air here, every time I go into a space, every time I write a post. Blake Neff is watching very carefully, and there's really only one question. It's not technical, it's not difficult, it's not weedy, it's not intricate. It is very direct and it is very simple. Where were you, Blake? Where were you on 9/10/25 between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time? Where were you? Who were you with? What were you doing? Were you meeting with anybody? Was it in that parking lot? Was it on the campus of UVU? Did they have long hair? Was it Lance Twiggs? Were they muscular? Were they buff? Were they left-handed? Was it the guy in the parking ramp? Was it the chin-having guy that was walking down the stairs? Was it somebody in a maroon shirt? Was it somebody in a gray Dodge Challenger? Was it somebody in a white SUV that was later seen on video circling the parking lot waiting for the roof jumper to do his roof jumping? Who was it, Blake? Who were you meeting with? What were you discussing? What were you doing for that hour, Blake? There's nowhere that you can go. I proved this as a bounty hunter. There is nowhere in the world that people can run and get away from me. They can't. And now it's not just me. Now everybody wants to know. And I'm never going to stop asking the question. And soon everybody will know the answer to that question, whether he wants to give it or not. And this guy is in a real predicament.
Yeah, I agree.
I wouldn't want to be Blake Neff right now. I would not. And you know, the thing is that once Blake Neff falls, we've already listed all of the connections of Blake Neff, the ones that we know about. We've already talked about Sarah Rogers being at the State Department as the Undersecretary of State. We've already talked about these ties to Jenica Pounds, who's at the Pentagon. We've already talked about his relative on Fort Huachuca. You know, we've already talked about him taking credit for all of these, you know, political appointees that are inside of this mechanism, this power apparatus, this Judeo-Christian war machine killing, you know, whatever this is, you know, childhood innocence maiming cabal that we have here, whatever this disgusting apparatus is. We know about all of those ties. How deep does it really go?
Yeah.
You know, and in addition to that, when a fall guy takes one on the chin, the objective is to try to limit the damage to the mechanism, to the machine.
Right.
So they have to be able to sever a tie somewhere at some point. Yep. How far up does this go before it stops? And based on the things that I've been able to observe, this goes all the way to the Oval Office and through the Knesset and into Israel and into Netanyahu's regime and into the IDF and all through the military ranks and into the upper echelons of the military-industrial complex. And that's not like, you know, some super advanced tinfoil hat conspiracy mind. That is just based on what Charlie Kirk was saying and what the result of those words was. And when I look at somebody who you could look back in time at precedent that has been set over and over again. We already talked about JFK. He wanted to make sure that AIPAC had to register as a foreign agent because they were. He wanted to make sure that Israel was never allowed to have nuclear capabilities because they shouldn't, because they are a terror state. And JFK knew that. And what did they do? They killed them. They stole our nukes, if nukes are real. Right. Okay. And I will just, the caveat here is, I don't know. I don't have any evidence that nukes are in fact real. Right. I know that we're told that they're stored in Minot, where interestingly enough, the Egyptian jets that everybody says are such a conspiracy, which we can see on open sourced information on flight trackers all over the place, are spending a whole lot of time in Minot between there and places like Wichita, Kansas and Omaha, Nebraska, while they are in Hebrew using Hebrew keyboards, searching on how to get their hands on American SD cards, specifically for Orem, Utah. Why? Why are they doing that? That's not a coincidence. Is that positive evidence? Or is that just some kooky, crazy conspiracy theory that I made up because I didn't? Right. Anybody can replicate these searches. Ana Escobar has a fantastic mind. And she okay, well, I wonder if they were doing this, because just imagine what it would take to imagine what somebody else is capable of and putting together that perfect procurement pipeline. She's a very talented mind, that Ana Escobar. She really is. And when you have all of that, and you have the Egyptian jets, and you have the, TPUSA planes going to these nondescript, inconspicuous little airfields that don't have 24-hour security, and they don't have air traffic control towers, and they happen to be the same airstrips that were used for the cocaine cowboy operation and the Iran-Contra operation. And they're there at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, 30, 45 minutes on the ground before they then go to a larger airport and spend time on the tarmac next to a Miriam Adelson-owned Boeing business jet before it then leaves and goes straight to Tel Aviv. Or Pete Hegseth's plane 990404 becoming the notorious SAM Flight 702. Or then later it becoming the same plane, SAM Flight 112, which would depart, guess where, Fort Huachuca on its way to Joint Base Andrews before flying over Accurate Energetic Systems in Eastern Tennessee on the day that it blew up. I mean,
yeah, at some point, like enough of all of this builds up that like the majority of the public can't. I mean, it's sad that some people do. They stick their head in the sand and they act like we're all crazy. But if you spend enough time, all of these things are connected, and it all goes back to what was the purpose for killing Charlie Kirk and what was going on in his life literally since October 10th, 2023, when he went on the PBD podcast. That was the beginning of the end for him. And then it really escalated in the last like year and a half of his life. And then like tremendous.
Did you see his face when he was on with Megyn Kelly?
Oh yeah. I've watched it a dozen times. You mean when she came on his show that last week when they were talking about the Jewish donors and him being called anti-Semitic and like just the text messages that he's getting, the pressure that he's getting.
You could just see it on his face. Like it was written all over him.
Have you seen the part where... Sorry, go ahead.
I wasn't watching, and I've said this. I don't know if I've said this I think I've been on with you a couple of times now. This is my third time. And I don't know if I've said this, but I was one of his biggest detractors while he was alive.
Yeah.
And so I had really effectively written him off as one of these people that's in this faction, this pro-Israel, war-loving, neocon, MAGA, conservative right, whatever you want to call it. He was part of that.
He was.
And so I wasn't listening to what he was saying. And turns out he was actually a pattern recognizer and prolific noticer based on the text messages he was sending to Candace Owens nearly 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
And so, a certain aspect, a certain side of me is like, he knew and didn't say anything. And, I don't have a whole lot of respect for people who do that. We're watching Alex Jones do that. Nick Fuentes is doing that. I mean, there's a whole litany of people. This is the litmus test, okay? America's government and its relationship to Israel and its government, which are basically
one and the
indistinguishable at this point. I mean, I can't draw a line of distinction, and now they're just overtly merging them via the National Defense Authorization Act. But this is the litmus test. What side of the Israeli question are you on? What side of the question about Talmudic Judaism and its relationship and its plug directly into the military-industrial complex and our system of governance here in this country, which has been failed and hijacked since they shot JFK, really long before that. It was put in a hyperdrive then. The installation of the Federal Reserve, maybe you could argue, put in a hyperspeed May 14th, 1948, when the Rothschild purchased this landmass in Palestine and called it Israel to convince 2.4 billion Christians that this was what the Bible was representing. Yep. How? It's May 14th, 1948. How? So it's just amazing to watch the meltdown that people have and the positions that they have to take to try to defend this, which is why you haven't seen me on Patrick Bet David. You haven't seen me on Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan talks to everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, that loser talks to, and not throwing shade, I think she's great, but like Lily Gaddis, people with smaller accounts that are talking about these things. And I'm talking like way back when Lily Gaddis got herself in trouble for being like a prolific, racist or whatever it was that they were accusing her of being. And then, she was talking about Israel, of course, because who wasn't? Go to the reply sections on any social media platform and just, go click on like Dave Portnoy and then go look at the replies in his anything that he posts. And there is not a more radicalized, more focused on, more polarized, more important, more critical, more imminent. There is not a topic, there is not an issue that particularly Zoomers Gen Xers, millennials, and now even boomers are more focused on collectively as a whole, as a country. There is not an issue that people are more focused on right now than Israel.
Correct. And
so go ahead.
Okay. So like you were saying about Charlie being a pattern recognizer, or, that he, did pattern recognition, over the last 3 years. And I do think that he obviously was just a major proponent for Israel, and he defending, Judeo-Christian values. And, but I think he saw the writing on the wall, especially when he started to question October 7th. And he talked about it as such on the PBD podcast, saying that, Netanyahu had a mandate to ethnically cleanse Gaza, and then that he believed that he either gave a stand down order, or maybe even it was like their version of 9/11 to give him justification to go to war and then to do what he has been doing this entire time. But he would have seen the writing on the wall when he goes to these campus events and he's talking with students. And then he does that sit down with Andrew Colvett at the Student Action Summit, where he talks to like 20 of the chapter leaders from his, chapters. And the whole conversation is about Israel. He would have seen that the increasing focus was just, it was unavoidable. You weren't going to run away from this. You weren't going to be able to make this go back in, the toothpaste back in the, the can or whatever, that he was going to have to address this. And so when he did start to do that, because I don't think he wanted to lose his authenticity and his, the respect and, the trust that he had with the Zoomers, that was his group that he had, used to get Trump elected. There was nothing else that, I mean, if you believe that, or at least that he made.
No, elections are fake and gay. These are installations that are being done by Miriam Adelson and, her cohorts.
Yeah.
Her tribe. That's really what it is. And, it can either be a black pill and people are like, or it could be a white pill. Like, we have access to conversations like this. We know what the temperature in the room is. We know what the litmus test is. We know that entire campaigns are being built on the back of a stance that's very anti this relationship,
right? Very
anti-Israel. And, let's just keep it real. If you are speaking on Israel in a way that is, just like above board and just brutally honest, you would have to say that like Israel in and of itself, and I know that we have to be able to identify it as something, so we call it Israel because that's what they called it. But really, it's not even that. It's a safe haven for people who hurt kids and hurt Americans and spy on Americans, people like Jonathan Pollard, people like Tom Alexandrovich, who are in our country, looking to harm mentally handicapped young American children and then get locked up for it. And by the way, while he's here, what is he doing? While he's here, he's actively engaged in the war on free speech on American soil as an Israeli foreign national in an operation to work against Americans by submitting takedown requests to Meta to combat the scourge of anti-Semitism or the continued questioning or criticizing of Israel. Tom Alexandrovich, he worked for the Israeli Cybersecurity Directorate and bragged about having 40,000 American sentiments taken offline. That means 40,000 people who were typing something that was questioning October 7th, questioning Israel, questioning Project Esther, whatever it is, the Noahide laws. If they were questioning, if they were weighing in, if they had a problem with any of this, they were being censored and suppressed at the hands of Tom Alexandrovich. And he's only, one of the people that we know about. Unit 8200 has some entity that's headquartered in New York. It's Something America. It's really an Israeli company. It's actually registered as a foreign agent of Israel. And these people have back-end computer access and government contracts to like over 60 critical bureaucratic and government agencies. For example, the Department of War, the VA, the Department of the Army, the Department of the Navy, the Air Force, all of our armed services, where this is actual hardware. It's their proprietary hardware that they can access from the back end at any time, and they know everything about everyone who has ever served in our military and where to find them and what their medical records are and what their service record was. This is like a recruiting ground. It's a breeding ground for people like Gary Melton. and they go in and they get these people. While in the meantime, they can go into those same dossiers and use them to gather compromat and build a file or a dossier on people like Mitch Snow, who happens to be one of the guys who 3 decades ago stumbled across a tunnel system that directly connects the United States to Mexico that definitely wasn't there without the involvement or at least knowledge of the CIA. Because no drug trafficking is getting done, no arms trafficking is getting done, no child or human smuggling or trafficking is getting done without the blessing and the involvement of the intelligence apparatus. He stumbled across that. He wasn't supposed to know that. He wasn't supposed to find that as some grunt level low enlistee. He did. And was it then? Was it then? And then all of his relationships, like if you knew the real story of Mitch Snow and everything that I was just texting with him today. I mean, this guy is being everywhere he goes, he's labeled a bomb threat. Why are they doing that? So that effectively one day they can blow some shit up. And then they can, like what? Write some engravings about Mitch Snow's battle to get his son back and how he had just been pushed too far. He'd been pushed too far. Was it about the pressure or people like Dan Flood maybe showing up on his front porch? What was it? It was something that set him off. There was a trigger that was tripped and Mitch Snow blew up TPUSA. Right. And wouldn't that be convenient? Because now all of the people, all of the liabilities that these people have, because at this point, Erica Kirk is a liability. Andrew Colvett is a liability. If you don't think Tyler Boyer is a liability, I'll refer you back to him being on the Charlie Kirk show, sitting next to Jack Posobiec and talking about how Mikey McCoy was being groomed to be Charlie's handler. Jack Posobiec couldn't even shut him up. I mean, all of these people have become loudmouth, loose-lipped liabilities, but they were all pulled from the same dossier, and that dossier comes from a military breeding ground, a CIA intel apparatus defense contracting breeding ground. And that's where Erica Kirk, who's always, aspired for, she's had this lust for and this penchant for and this thirst, this desire, insatiable desire for fame and for being on camera. And that's evidence. There's positive evidence of that because she was on Fort Huachuca filming movies. She was casting reality TV shows with her former fiance that she denies ever existed by scrubbing his existence from her Instagram, where also you will find her sitting in New York on some stairs with her leather pants on, spreading her legs, ready to take it deep from the next, black guy, white guy, gay guy, straight guy, trans guy, whoever walks by and wants to put it in her. I mean, this woman is a promiscuous whore, and she has always sought the limelight. She was in Donald Trump's Miss USA Arizona pageant. She won it. She was hand selected by Donald Trump, who was in the business of procuring young women and appears 37,000 times in only the Epstein files that we have access to, not the 6 million other pages that are in some bunker underneath some gay club in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, and don't forget she did that CIA documentary on EMPs.
Training the CIA in a CIA training video. These people's connections are openly documented, and there is positive evidence of it everywhere that you look.
Yeah.
So anyway, did you have a question?
Oh my gosh, bro. So one of the things,
don't get me started in this piece.
That's why everyone loves you, bro. Your ability to just riff and connect the dots in this one long, paragraph where it's completely cohesive and makes total sense.
That's why they took my blue check mark away on X, because if I didn't have character limitations, these people would be fucked.
You know who didn't do a show today, right? This guy that said he was going to come out with all the freaking evidence on Mitch Snow and you. No show, no nothing yesterday. Just a bunch of stupid talking smack all week.
Hey, I saw a clip. Owen Benjamin played a clip today of Andrew Wilson being on with Valhalla, and I'm forgetting the guy's name.
Heavy Duty Country.
Heavy Duty Country, who apparently I owe him, some. I guess he said something positive about the work that I've been doing on this, and the risks that I've taken,
Yes.
just outside of the Charlie Kirk stuff, by sticking my neck out on this whole Israel thing. I mean, I
Right.
was really early on that for a guy with a big platform. And we've talked about this a little bit on your show, I think last time that I was here, and just recognizing that, somebody who had access to Instagram and Facebook and, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, we were cooking on Rumble, we were on YouTube still. X was growing. I had my blue check mark. I had massive motion everywhere. Anybody's shows that I went on, if my face was in the thumbnail, if my name was in the description, they did better numbers than on any of the other shows that they had done.
Yeah.
And I knew when I came across what I came across, and when I saw the knee-jerk, breakneck, visceral response to me publishing interviews of some sit-down conversations with the survivors of the USS Liberty attack, I knew, like, okay, there's something going on here. And then it was advertisers calling me and sending me emails, and then it was demanding sit-down meetings if there were millions of dollars on the line. And there was kind of like the promise that this money was going to be taken off the table and proximity and access was going to be removed. And I just kind of, at that point, and what you're talking about is, it's a gift from God. It's discernment. And the closer you are to God, the more acute that becomes. And you were talking about, that's why people like you, the ability to connect all of these dots.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm telling you, like, recognize and pray for more on that gift, because that is something that people really, really need in today's times. But it was at that time where I realized, okay, and then the pressure started to come from inside. And at first it was kind of soft, like, yeah, you don't want to do this. Too many young families rely on this network for their income. And I'm like, what are you talking about? These are people that worked like inside of my organization or adjacent to it. These were people who I had contracted with and employees of mine that were higher up in my company at the time that it was doing really well. I was busy. I needed organizational support. I was, going here, I was going there. I was at this conference. I was at the FLCCC stuff, like sitting down. I was like bum rushing Steve Kirsch when I knew that he knew that it was a patented weapon of biowarfare, but refused to say so. And I'm like, I knew that he was going to be at this event with Pierre Corey, and I'm the kind of guy that'll pull up. So I just did. I'm like, oh, this is black tie. Sorry, you'll have to excuse me in my hoodie, but I want to sit at that table right there. And I walked in, guess who with? My mom. I walked in with my mom to this event, and she's like, you go, baby, let's go. And I walk in and we sit down right at Steve Kirsch's table, and it's all like white linen and everything. And I think that psychopath Robert Malone was in the house somewhere. And then you had other people who are pretty highly respected by people like Jimmy Dore and Pierre Corey. He was there, and he's kind of like the head of the FLCCC stuff, and not throwing shade there, but just saying, like, Steve Kirsch, he had a big platform. He was, highly regarded as like a forward-thinking intellectual during the COVID-19 days. And, he was writing a big Substack. People paid attention to the things that he was saying, and he was going on like the Fox News channel and stuff. And I was like, no, you're not going to have plausible deniability. You're going to tell Americans what this actually is, because I'm going to put this patent in front of you. So I went and cornered him. We ended up having a great conversation anyways. And, although I think he's a nerd and probably highly autistic, not throwing shade there either. I think autists are doing some really great work.
Yeah.
But, I think that, he really had the opportunity to go right or left, and he went the right direction at that point. And so I respect that. When I look at people who know and then change or alter their course and try to like unlearn things or convince their audiences that they never really knew these things, and that we haven't been listening to you for years on your stance on Israel, for example, and then you just do a complete 180 and you just expect everybody to digest that and be okay with it. No, but it was at this time where I realized I had this very short window. I had this short opportunity, because I knew, and Blake Neff was a part, by the way, of, coming at me kind of sideways. He would send me text messages or emails telling me how stupid it was to go down that road, and that this is the one thing that'll get you canceled, and that it's just really a retarded and dumb take anyways, because I don't really understand the intricacies of the relationship with Israel, and I should learn more about it. And this is the scourge of anti-Semitism. You don't want to be one of these people who hates somebody for their religious affiliation, particularly this group of people. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I'm never going to turn my back on my people.
Yeah.
You know, there are those who lead their people, and then there are those who leave their people. Those who leave do it for selfish motivations. They do it for the access, the proximity, the money, the fame, the prominence, the platform, all of these different reasons. But I knew I was going to have this short window, and that's why a lot of people know me as, you know, kind of a loose cannon, I guess you could say, or a dog off the leash, because I spent a year and a half going really hard. And anybody who knows me, they know it was offensive, it was crude, it was direct, it was gross, it was disgusting, it was shocking, it was hyperbolic. All of it was true. But it had to be framed in such a way that really caught the attention of a lot of people on a big platform while it was still at my avail. And then as soon as I started talking like this, of course, like dominoes, all these platforms just started getting hacked. And you know what? That is a virtue of an honest man. Just look at all of the things that they're not allowed to say, all of the places that they're not allowed to go, and watch as people change their perception and their direction based on the information that they have and whether or not they're willing to accept the truth when they find it. And that is the virtue that I believe Charlie Kirk had. You know, he was learning these things, and I think that at this point he was starting to realize that the foundation of Turning Point was really built on that fallacy. Right. And as he realized that the foundation of everything that he had kind of taken credit for, but also while giving glory to God, because he always did that, he glorified God, he glorified Jesus Christ. And I think that, you know, in the back of his mind, outside of that, he probably really started to realize, you know, what this company, what this infrastructure, what these chapters and organizations and different corporations were actually built on, and who it was that was building them. And I think that, you know, like his text messages to Candace Owens, and the reason why I won't say, well, Charlie knew and he didn't say anything, so fuck him. You know, the reason why I'm not saying that is because Charlie Kirk was in a different position than most people are who realize these things. He's running a company and a corporation that has access to millions of Zoomers on college campuses all over the country, which is made at the ready for him by the power structure that he now knows he has to go to war with.
Yep.
So imagine trying to navigate that. And who it is that you're talking to. And so if you want to know who Charlie Kirk's real friends were, look at who he was talking to. And one of them was Candace Owens. And so although in the past I've disagreed with some of the tactics, I guess, with the way that Candace Owens has gone about this, not her motivations, not even really any position that she's taken, just some of the tactics and minor technicalities. And I've been vocal about them. I've said these things out loud. But then she'll do something like release those text messages, which are incredibly critical to anybody who's really looking for the truth. Like, if you really want to know, like, okay, I think this is what happened, but can I confirm that? And how much circumstantial evidence on top of more physical evidence, on top of more irrefutable banks of data, on top of more anomalous activity, and on top of more confirmed lies, how much of that, you know, do I have to really compile to be able to say, okay, yeah, now I'm thoroughly convinced? Well, I think that was a really key component to showing who Charlie Kirk actually was, what he was actually thinking about, the moves that he was actually going to make. And it makes his Telegram group chat, where he said that he was going to be left with no choice but to lead the pro-Israel cause, it makes that all the more important when you consider who the audience was inside of that group chat, and knowing that there were rabidly Zionist Jews in that group chat. That was, you know, he may not have a Superman-like neckbone of steel, but he does have balls of steel. Because it took a whole lot for him to be on back channels like that before he went public. My recommendation is that you always go public when you're in a situation like that. And I think that's why Joe Kent, boom, resigned, bang, immediately, went public. Like, he knows He knows. And I think if Joe Kent doesn't go public, they would have killed him.
Yeah.
He was poking around, and Joe Kent probably is very aware of who is in possession of the actual everybody knows that there were drones around. Everybody knows the Hades plane was there.
Yep.
I don't know if it was because it was drone capable. I don't know if it was because it was, because it lacks that underbelly.
Correct.
That's on the prototype. Yep. That shows, and that's just a prototype. From what I understand, there is not one of these bombardier jets that actually has that underbelly on it, but that's kind of a conceptualization. Yeah. That is to come in the future. Yep. So I don't know how drone capable it was, but you cannot deny its existence. Yep. And you can't deny that it was flying at 200 feet at 114 knots, I think is what John Cullen, who's done great work on that plane. That's what he says.
Yep.
You can't deny the fact that plane was flying over St. George at the very moment that Tyler Robinson was turning himself in, or what I think more accurately describes the actions of Tyler Robinson was making sure that he wasn't murked because they were going to kill him.
Yeah.
They were looking for him because they wanted to have the shootout with the guy.
Yep. The Harvey him.
Yeah, that Matthew Thomas Crooks, whatever.
Yeah, that's a modern one.
Yeah, so you got to have the dead guy. You got to have the guy that can't talk, but yet there's all this evidence around him. And what we all saw on video happen to Charlie Kirk was he got shot in the chest with a 30-06. Well, there's the 30-06. There's the DNA. There's the guy. Here's the video footage. I think we don't ask a whole lot of questions were it not for that inconvenient neck wound. When the lav mic malfunctioned and sent the battery into his neck. Yep. I think that we would probably have a lot less questions had Erica Kirk not immediately started sending out fundraising text messages to everybody, having her mom's company not geofencing the memorial and showing up with glitz and glams and glittery suits and leather chaps and stroking the vice president's head and pyrotechnics blowing up everywhere and squirting fake tears in her eyes before. Yeah, I mean, all of these things just completely bizarre. The lack of any kind of real raw human emotion or behavior and all of the weird, she dressed like a sniper in all black with the operator hat on.
Yes.
What are you doing? Who's responsible for making these decisions? And then of course you have the laughing during the Zoom meeting that got leaked. There's just been nothing at all that's been authentic about this woman. And like I said, I think she's a huge liability for them at all whatsoever. And I don't think that we have any questions at all whatsoever if all of these components go off the way that they were planned, but they didn't.
Right.
And people like Andrew Wilson, he's just another one of those components. Where did this guy come from? Well, when you go look at what he was saying before he got paid by Turning Point USA, you'll quickly find that he was calling Erica Kirk a retard. Yeah. Well, why the switch? Why is she now the best at everything and a grieving widow, including, by the way, being the best at running a multi-billion-dollar mouthpiece for the greater Israel cause, for the pro-Israel cause, for the Talmudic expansionist agenda? And they had a lot of work left to do. They've got Syria, they've got Lebanon, they've got the rest of the West Bank to annex, they've got Trump Gaza to build, they've got Kushner Rafah to build, they've got high-rise apartments for Jewish billionaires in Baghdad to build.
Yep.
I mean, these people have a lot of work to do. Charlie Kirk was trying to leave at a time where, no, you're not getting out of the mob at this point. And you can see that they tried to lure him back. They tried using the shekels. They tried using the pressure. They tried the Bill Ackman mansion struggle session that Buckley Carlson, he's got an ability to recall. And I think Buckley watches my show because he uses, and I'm just going to say that I think that I know this because he uses some phrases that, that kind of I coined here, I was referring to the lies that Posobiec and Benny Johnson and the whole, phase one Epstein Bindergate crew, all these people, Officer Tatum, they were all telling when they came out of the closed door, no cameras, Friday afternoon preliminary hearing after we've all been able to watch Monday through Thursday. And thank God for Brandy Siciliani and Billy. Yep. For being there and then coming out and saying, no, that's not. And then we knew early on, and you could just tell that these people were lying anyways, but then we had confirmation of it immediately so that we could drag these people through the mud, but they just don't even care. The hubris that they present this stuff with, and then they just lie about it over and over again. Benny Johnson, I laugh that he's got this hostage behind him all the time.
His wife?
This woman, I don't know
with
if
daggers.
that's his wife or not. she looks like she's really uncomfortable, like she's there
Yes.
against her will, like
Yeah.
she's begging for somebody to come and rescue her or something. It's insane. The lies that these people tell just so overtly, it's actually really astonishing.
Yeah. Oh man, I was just I was thinking of something, and then you started talking about Benny Johnson, and I lost it. It was about so did you see the sit down? Did you watch it with Buckley, or just a part of that with Brandon Straka?
Oh, I didn't even make my point. So what I said about all of that was, they represented this as 4K digital, and I'm recalling from my show, and I was sitting here and I remember saying what I said, and I was going off on this, and I was like, it's like super duper califragilistic HD. It's like 4K. It's like you could see Tyler Robinson's pores.
Yes.
And that's what
Buckley said.
Buckley Carlson said. And then there was pushback like, no, that's a misrepresentation, because that was never said that you could see his pores. But I know where he got that.
Yeah.
So I think Buckley's a fan of the show. And in fact, we've exchanged DMs. What he told me was I suggested that, like Owen Benjamin had a 3-way sit down with Tucker and Buckley and Owen. And I thought that set up that conversation was really great.
Yeah.
I really like Buck. I think that, kind of like the flow of conversation would be really, really great if the same setup were to happen with Tucker and Buckley and myself.
Yeah,
and so I DM'd that to Buckley, and he was like, hey, Stu, that sounds great. And I would absolutely love to sit down. It's a busy summer, but at the end of the summer, let's sit down. I actually just sent him, and then he sent me his phone number. And I actually just sent him a text last night, a voice note saying, hey, end of the summer, you've been doing great work, and I like what you did. You really took a great position on the most obvious anomalies on this Brandon Straka thing. You were kind of put on an island there, and you took the arrows, but you did it well. You wore the armor. Let's get together for a conversation. I haven't heard back from him, but I think that would be a really great combo too. Although, I will just be honest with you, I'm not really that optimistic that something like that will happen. And I was kind of alluding to that earlier when I said that, there's a certain Rubicon that you cross when you have a conversation with me. And I think that came with, that year and a half of basically really shocking. It became my reputation. And of course, all of that can be reconciled with when, if anybody's gone through this journey with me, they'll tell you that obviously the vernacular is a whole lot more tempered now. We're now drilling down on like the very specific issues, but to like wave the flag and like the redcoats are coming kind of a moment, you really had to be loud before you were canceled, and it worked. I will take a lot of credit for this network and its work and my Twitter space and everywhere else that I was at in the work that we done, being a very pivotal part of like mainstreaming the questions about Israel. I think that it's undeniable that we did, so it really worked. But I understand that along with that comes like anybody who even had any association to me was attacked. That included people who were advertising on my network. And so like cowards, they pulled their money back from the network, which is why we switched to a supporter-based platform. It's what we were forced to do. We couldn't do it without the support of people who appreciate the work that I do via my locals community at stupeters.tv. So there's my shill. If you guys want to support me, $9 a month. Don't pay Netflix. Don't have the groomers in your living room. Don't play Disney. We know who they are. Don't invite them into your living room every day. Instead, support people like Matt. Support people like me, support people like Baron Coleman and Candace, or whoever it is that you think is doing great work. Ana Escobar. These people are doing wonderful and tremendous work. And it matters because aside from the horrific tragedy of Charlie Kirk's death, which is it's unimaginable. And I'm really sorry that we didn't get the opportunity to kind of go through this awakening together and to be able to watch him do this on college campuses. I mean, it would have just been like a beautiful thing to see him going around the country telling all of these Zoomers that he was leaving the pro-Israel cause and watching them leave right along with them. And I'll quote him, and this is a quote. So it was him telling Candace Owens that these Jewish billionaires who were pressuring him, he was telling them to, quote, go to hell. And if he were to tell that story, and if Candace would have been back on tour with him, I mean, just imagine the momentum that conversation, that dialogue would have, because he was just such a charismatic person who I believe was, really sincere, and he was a man of conviction, and he had the way of captivating the audience and, commanding the attention in the room. And if somebody like him were to be able to be on like this team with us and the people who have, really taken a lot of arrows and with really no positive upside, people say, oh, this is a grift. Well, really? Because naming these people publicly, I can tell you, is not financially advantageous. Okay, I'll just tell you firsthand, it's kind of a sort of suicide that you lay down on, reputationally speaking, and economically speaking. So, there's really no upside to joining in that conversation, but I think that he was ready to, and I know that he was ready to, because he was naming this issue on his show. He was saying these things in group chats. He was talking about these things with his friends. He was saying these things on interviews. He knew what the litmus test was. He knew that to remain relevant, this was the side of the fight that he had to be on. And I think that he was ready to say that. So it would have been really awesome to go through all of that with him. But aside from that tragedy, and the point that I was trying to make is that, the assassination of Charlie Kirk is linked to and has implications in so many other different. You can't talk about Epstein without talking about the difference that Charlie Kirk would have made. You can't talk about the war in Iran without talking about the influence that Charlie Kirk would have had over the young men that are going to be asked now to go and give their blood as a sacrifice to Greater Israel, without talking about Charlie Kirk and his influence among that group of people. And really, with any issue that we're looking at here now that is bringing conflict and suffering and plight, whether it be economic, whether it be spiritual, whether it be in our institutions of learning or banking and finance or academia or the media or Hollywood or the music industry, you can't talk about any of these things without it pointing back to that subject matter. And all of the things that we're seeing right now, from, the authoring of Project Esther and the introduction of the Noahide laws, to the conflict and the kinetic confrontation that we're going through. Right, I mean, Iran is the last domino to fall in the Middle East on the way to the conquest of Greater Israel. It's got to go. How are they going to do it? How are they going to do it? They can't do it from the air. You really just can't get in there. I mean, if you thought Normandy was bad, just look at the topography of Iran. Look at the geography. And everything that surrounds Iran. It's the fatal funnel between the Strait of Gibraltar, the Suez Canal, the Strait of Hormuz, which is, I think, still probably the most likely place for the next big, even bigger than 9/11 false flag, where you'll have iconic imaging of Americans dying as entire carrier strike groups come under Iranian missile barrage. And it'll probably be Israel that launches them, to be honest with you. But massive casualties of guys wearing the flag on their arms, who are there serving this country. And for whatever reason, I guess serving this country means protecting the borders of Israel, not the borders of our country. But that imaging will do a whole lot to send a message to the American people that they need to support more war and the complete annihilation of the Persians, which is just another theatrical tactic of programming and brainwashing and just out and out lies that come from the empire of lies, which is that, the Iranians are the axis of evil, and that they're part of, this axis of evil, like, what is the term that they always throw around? The number one state sponsor of terror. And, that these are Arab, radical, extremist, Islamic Muslims, when in fact, they're actually Aryan Persians. And, the average IQ is like 115 or 120 or something. And, these people have built this advanced civilization, and their capital city is the size of New York City. They're fighting a war of national survival. And when you consider the fact that Iran has never actually started a conflict, they've never been the aggressor. They've never just like unprovoked, willy-nilly just gone and like blown up a country. They've never willy-nilly just gone into a country and used directed energy weapons and kidnapped their president. They've never willy-nilly just invaded an entire section of the earth and, took out entire rows of housing and bomb churches and hospitals and critical infrastructure necessary for human survival, like water desalination plants and power plants. They've never done any of that. So who really is the axis of evil? Who really is the number one state sponsor of terror? I think the answer is obviously pretty clear, and the question is rhetorical because anybody who's paying attention understands what it is that's going on here. It is not a conspiracy theory. It is their stated objective. They wear the map of Greater Israel on the sleeves of their military uniforms, the very same uniform that elected representatives of your government are wearing to the People's House in D.C., Brian Mast, as a United States, representative. That's who these people are, and they will tell you right to your face. It's part of the humiliation ritual. They get off on it because they are perverts and they're psychopaths.
And the third temple patch that they have from the Chabad organization or company.
The Chabad Lubavitch tunnel dwellers.
Yes. Yep. Did you
know? And by the way, the Chabad Lubavitch are the same sect. They're adjacent to the Lev Tahor. And I don't know if you remember the Lev Tahor, but they were referred to as the jungle tiny hats.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to say it because it's defamatory. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. I got you.
So these Lev Tahor people, have you heard about this? They had like 170 kids that they were holding like captive, that they had like stolen. And the parents of these kids wanted their kids back. And so it was either the military or it was, like their state police, or I don't know. It was, I think their military went in and they like invaded this Lev Tahor combine,
like a commune,
concubine, like commune. Thank you.
Yeah.
They raided this commune and they took all these kids back, and then they jailed all these people. And there's footage of these people being like walked away by the police and taken into custody, and they've got the things and the things and the things, and their tribesmen, their fellow tribesmen later went and like broke them out.
No way.
And the government did nothing about it. And then they took these kids back. They went and they like broke out these jungle people.
Yeah.
And then these jungle people went to where these kids were being held, and then they like just like took them back, and that was the end of the story. Like, what happened to the ones that were in the tunnels with the bloodstained mattresses? I mean, that was just kind of the end of the story.
Yeah.
What happened with the Tom Alexandrovich? That's just the end of the story. The Jonathan Pollard, back in Israel, it's just the end of the story.
Yeah.
That's all. That's the end of that. And how many instances could we refer to where this has been the same outcome? And I think the answer that we hear increasingly is every single time.
Yeah.
It happens every single time.
Yeah. What I don't understand is how people, how these Christians can call themselves Christians that are actively engaging. So did you know that they were breeding these blemishless cows, these red heifers in Texas?
Yeah.
And then they sold them, and now they're in Israel so that they can reconsecrate the Temple Mount when, the Dome of the Rock accidentally gets blown up, probably by a missile from Israel. And then they can rebuild the third temple. And then you have these people like Pete Hegseth and these people that call themselves Christians that aren't Christians that are wanting to rebuild the third temple, even though Jesus is the temple and our bodies are the temple. What are you talking about? Why would you need a third temple unless they're like part of wanting to bring the Antichrist back? Like, what are you doing? How are these people like, Ted Cruz and all these how do you call yourself a Christian?
They don't care.
Yeah.
They are drunk on power. They are drunk on their ideations of grandeur. They are drunk on their sexual desires and fetishes and the ability to satisfy them. Yeah. And they're pushing for unfettered, open, and legal sexual access to kids, which is why there's this normalization of that type of activity. And it's why there's like a push to desensitize that topic and to make it taboo, to call people what they are when they are harming children that are under the age of 16 years old, 16 and under. And we're talking about 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old men. And we're talking about things that have been proven to have happened. And every single time, what do we get? We get Jim Jordan rolling up the sleeves on his blue collared work shirt with his tie loosened, pointing his finger at and wagging it at, whoever it is in these GOP congressional inquiries where the taxpayer, it's just another racket.
Right.
So they can tell the taxpayer that they need money for these hearings and these inquiries. And then they drag them in front of there and they grandstand and they get their stupid sound bites on the fucking Fox News channel and on CNN. And then nothing ever happens. When was the last time a GOP inquiry did anything positive in your life? And by the way,
Never.
Didn't Donald Trump run on draining the swamp and locking people up? And fighting corruption and mass arrests and putting these people in jail. I mean, I remember these stupid real raw news websites telling us that Hillary Clinton had already met her maker at Gitmo and that Adam Schiff took one to the head and one to the nuts before, meeting his maker as well. And it was like, this was supposed to be who Trump was, this, CIA Q psyop. That's who we were supposed to build a big, beautiful wall and Mexico was going to pay for it. We were supposed to be no more wars. It would be the most idiotic thing that anybody could do to go back into the Middle East. The most times a president has ever bombed, the number of countries that have been bombed is one. It's only been Donald Trump. There's only been one president in one term to bomb more than 7 countries, and he did it in the first fiscal year of this presidency. And now we're like, I don't even know if people understand. We're bombing, we're running raids and campaigns and sorties into Somalia right now. Like, I mean, there's just like hidden power broker moves being made by the thug enforcement, street enforcement type arm of this, this illegitimate entity, and that's the United States military. It's no different from, the Bloods and the Crips. In LA. It's no different than the vice lords and the gangsters' disciples in Chicago. It's no different than any gang or organized racketeering, embezzlement, crime syndicate that you can think of. They have their street thugs. Even the Italian mafia. How many Sopranos episodes has everybody watched? Chat, how many have you guys seen? How many movies have you seen? The Godfather. What do you see? You see these, guineas from New York, these wops, these big fat Italian guys, these Sicilians, and they've got their fucking meatballs and they've got their guns and they've got their white linen and they're shooting people and they're offing people and they're putting guns on the table and they're daring somebody to try to say something. A clown like how? Like I'm a funny guy? Like you think I'm fucking funny and you're like sweating and you don't know, and the Italian mafia is just like so violent, and then you find out the whole time that they were in fact working for Mayor Lansky and who they were actually run by.
Right.
It's like every single time.
Every time. Yeah. And don't forget the Jewish mob too. So you have the Italian mafia and the Jewish mob. I have a question.
That's who ran them. That is their street enforcement level thugs. They do the shaking down. They do the bidding of. They do the grunt work. They do the killing. They do the extortion. They do the operations that gain compromat. They do the, hey, I'm going to go sell this guy an underage male prostitute. And then you end up with people like Lindsey Graham.
Where J. Edgar Hoover learned how to get compromat on people, because they did it on him first. That's when he learned that it was a powerful way to blackmail people, because that's what was done to him by the mafia. And then him and what is his name, Roy Cohen and Donald Trump, later Donald Trump, but they put up parties with, listening devices and cameras inside the Plaza Hotel. I don't know. Trump and Roy Cohen, that whole thing's.
Roy Cohen was Trump's fixer.
Yeah. Do you think,
like Tyler Boyer was Charlie Kirk's fixer?
Yeah.
And then, it's just, here's even more. We haven't even discussed Tyler Boyer's ties to Ukrainian orphanages in a war-torn country.
Yep.
We haven't even discussed Erica Kirk's ties to the Romanian orphanage in a war-torn country in Eastern Europe, Romanian Angels, that she's founding at 17 years old. And speaking of Ukraine...
Sorry.
Well, you named him. And then, all of these people that are tied to the Ukrainian ambitions of New Khazaria are the same people who are connected to the Talmudic expansionist desires for greater Israel. It's all the same cast of characters being shuffled around. And speaking of shuffled around, even when they leave the public purview, they then move themselves into more quiet corners of the apparatus. And that's when you'll find them buried into some NGO somewhere. You'll find them, at this shell corporation that really does nothing, but it's subsidized by the government, meaning that they're just ripping off Americans and giving these people millions of dollars as a reward for all the work that they did covering up the Epstein files and the assassination of Charlie Kirk and whatever other illegal COVID-19, whatever operation it is that the intel apparatus is carrying out against the American people. And the idea of right and left, we all know, is a fallacy.
Yep.
The Republicans and the Democrats, it's like a joke at this point. It's part of the humiliation ritual. It's like, they're really duking it out. They are mortal enemies. My Republican representative is going to Washington, D.C. every day and taking off the gloves and taking all the cheap shots and getting into the knockdown, drag out fights with their Democratic counterpart across the fake aisle to do what's best for their constituents in their respective congressional districts. It's just like,
for sure.
And, and then Thomas Massey going on with Tucker Carlson and saying very openly in the now infamous interview that everybody's got an AIPAC babysitter.
Yeah.
Everybody's got an AIPAC guy saved in their iPhone. And before they can make any moves, they have to check in with their AIPAC guy. Everybody's got a little tiny hat in the corner. And when these guys come out of the public positions in paid government or bureaucratic positions, they then are kicked off into these obscure places. Where do you think Jacob Recess is going to go? Do you really think that because he's no longer the chief of staff to J.D. Vance, that he's no longer going to be a power broker? That he's just going to go be some irrelevant guy on the beach?
No.
Some irrelevant, really short Jewish bald man that, by the way, Mitch Snow recounted seeing on Fort Huachuca surrounded by a security detail who weirdly, almost identically matches the description of that person and who happens to have been on the Fort Huachuca list. There's now a Fort Huachuca list. You've got the Epstein files and you've got the Fort Huachuca list. And the Fort Huachuca list is all of the people who are on the perfect procurement pipeline who were Google image searched by enlisted people as they were anticipating their arrival on the base.
Yep.
To go over the planning, to go over the messaging, to test, to run through demonstrations, and then the final demonstration, right down to the person who was going to be driving Charlie Kirk's SUV. Now, why would somebody in Sierra Vista, Arizona, why would somebody on Fort Huachuca want to know what the driver of Charlie Kirk's SUV 2 days from now is, what he looks like? Why would somebody there want to know what that guy looks like 2 days before he's going to be this guy? Nobody knows who this guy is.
Yeah.
Justin Davis. Who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
I don't even know. Did you know who that guy was? I'll be honest with you. I didn't even know who in the fuck Erica Kirk was. I had no desire to know who Charlie Kirk's wife was. I didn't know any of these people.
Same.
I knew Blake Neff. I never met him in person. Thank God. I think that was divine intervention. What was the plan there, right? I don't know, but the outcome is never good when you're adjacent to this bald-headed creep, this incessant, prolific, narcissistic liar. And I don't throw that term around because I know that is a term that women use to defame men. They're scorn and they hate that guy. So he's a narcissist. He's a narcissist. Yeah. I think Nick Fuentes does that all the time when he flails his little homosexual phalanges around. He's a narcissist. Don't let's deport Sneeko. But anyway, so no, I really mean that though. These people lie with hubris because they know, going back to the beginning of this conversation, that they have the protection of all of these people. And those people are in the procurement pipeline too. Because why would somebody on Fort Huachuca need to know what Kash Patel looked like? Why would they need to know what Pete Hegseth looked like? Everybody knows what Pete Hegseth looks like. It's because you're making a pass. It's because you're creating a file that you escorted this guy. You checked them on that day.
Yeah.
You made sure that you knew and did your due diligence. And that's what these enlisted people do. It's not standard operating procedure, but it happens all the time. And if you ask any person who's on any one of these intel bases, they will tell you that is basically, low key the procedure.
Yeah.
They do that. They look for who it is that they're going to be meeting with, and nobody knows who these people are. So on Fort Huachuca or in Sierra Vista, you're telling me that the people from Crane who specialize in microelectronics and drone swarms, who took possession of a anti-personnel micro-explosive that was manufactured at the defense contractor known as Accurate Energetic Systems that now blew up and everybody that was inside it is dead as Pete Hegseth's plane flies over it, that these people from Crane, are a person of interest for some person on Fort Huachuca just because? Like, who in the fuck knows who Martin Kindle is before he's needed in an operation to replicate a foreign military's technology to use a remotely detonated micro explosive? Oh, you mean like Israeli exploding pagers that were used to target members of Hezbollah?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like Martin Kindle, the guy who very strangely looks exactly like Cabot Phillips that Mitch Snow reports seeing in the Candlewood Inn suites on the day that he's being Google image searched by some enlisted person on Fort Huachuca.
Yeah.
But that's not positive evidence.
No.
Are you making a claim? Yeah, I am making a claim. And the claim is that all of these people are inextricably linked to Fort Huachuca and that there is no explanation for it. Nobody has been able to explain any of that irrefutable, open source, easily replicated data. Not one person has responded to why these people are flying around on these jets, why they're meeting up with Miriam Adelson, why they're, going to Israel directly after that. Why they're lying when telling the truth would be. Why are you denying having relationships? Why are you denying having had drank alcohol before you met Charlie Kirk? Like we saw you on national television on a romance dating show where you were drunk.
Yeah.
So the reason why they do this is because they feel protected. But at some point, it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to the pressure because too many of the Goyim know.
Yeah. Have you seen Brett Weinstein's text between him and Charlie Kirk?
No.
You haven't seen that? Let me pull it up. It's actually fascinating what Charlie says.
I don't think I have. What's up, chat?
Let's see.
I see you, and thank you for the kind words. I've been seeing a lot of them as they're scrolling past.
Okay. Are you ready? I'm going to read it, all right?
Yeah, what's up?
All right. So let's see. Okay, so this is Brett. Or no, this is Charlie. The proponents of the regime change have pivoted the last 24 hours. They know, and this is before Charlie goes to the White House for 2 days and lobbies argues with President Trump to not go to war with Iran. So this is just before that. Let's see, the last 24 hours. They know that they are losing and their position is indefensible and unpopular. Keep the pressure on. And then Brett says, right there with you, Charlie, we have to shut these maniacs down. Not only is the Republic depending on it, but the citizens of Israel are too. Charlie says, thank you. I totally agree. Brett says, and by the way, I think the president needs us to keep the pressure on. The neocons are very vocal and admittedly powerful, but the public does not want war, especially not to be dragged into one by a belligerent Israeli regime. Charlie says, I know. We need to do better. I have a theory on this, which is the power of dissident media is very good retroactively at uncovering injustice or scandal like COVID, Ukraine, and the border. We are not good at driving real-time mass public opinion yet. The neocons are. This is still Charlie. I'm doing all that I can. Truly, I was. Oh, so this is after the fact. I was in the White House all day today. That thing's in the way. Fighting for America. Same tomorrow. So, and they're directly talking about Israel, and Charlie's agreeing with everything Brett is saying.
And that's the day that he reportedly got shouted down by President Trump and met all of that resistance. I don't really know, I guess, what the actual events were, other than, President Trump definitely didn't agree with Charlie's position. And, that's obviously a threat to the lines that are on the script in the pipeline. I have heard those read before. I guess I didn't know necessarily who they were with. And then that goes along with Charlie Kirk seeing Joe Kent and saying to Joe Kent, do anything that you can to stop this war with Iran.
Yep. It's the same time.
Very obviously, he was opposed to this. And very obviously, these people knew they're not going to be able to do this from the air. They're not going to be able to economically, sanction Iran into oblivion. Nope. Iran has everything that we need.
Yep.
Right. And we now know that they can just shut down the Strait of Hormuz.
Yep.
We know that. We now know that you try to go in there and it's not going to go well. Do you remember the story that they tried to tell us, bro, chat? Do you remember the story they tried to tell us about 2 downed pilots being rescued?
Yes. And how they were able to find their location.
They had broken ankles.
Yes.
The one guy had broken ankles and he walked 77 miles and he climbed mountains and he got to the top of the mountain and he was draped in an American flag and he turned on his transponder and the first words that he said was, "God is great."
You know they're going to make a movie out of that BS, right?
Bro, obviously what happened was, and this is on the record and everybody can go back predating that day, and you can see that these people are on the record pitching this ridiculous idea about going into Iran, going in by air, bringing in excavating equipment, having stealth bombers providing cover, bringing a contingent of service members onto the ground in Iran, and then using that excavating equipment to dig into the sides of the mountains to retrieve Iranian uranium, and while under fire, constructing a temporary airstrip to bring more operations in and to fly Iranian uranium out. And then you see the charred remains of a body in one of the downed C-130s. This is just one of the, I believe, 2 downed C-130s.
Yeah.
And if anybody's familiar with C-130s, if you're not, just look it up on Google. Take a look at the size of C-130s. Take a look at the amount of personnel that C-130s are designed to transport.
Yeah.
It's not one. You don't just have one guy flying around on a C-130 with a bunch of excavation equipment. It was a slaughter. And that was the same day that they shot down those F-35 stealth fighters.
Yep.
It was the same day that they shot down other stealth drone technology that the American-Israeli war empire tried to send their way. And the Iranians were officially not fucking around at that point because they realized that they're fighting a war of national survival.
Yep.
And that's when everybody's head spun. And it became very clear, abundantly clear, that Iran was a much more formidable opponent than we thought they were, or that we were sold that they were, and that the BRICS alliance, you would be naive to believe that that is an economic only alliance. It also involves a military component.
Yep.
And then you saw the posturing of Russia and China. And it was like this oh shit moment where it became very obvious that our like dinosaur Navy technology is completely obsolete because Iran can use $50,000 drones and, you know, put holes in the side of these billion-dollar, you know, aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
And that this was not a war that was going to be won through the air or through any kind of waterways. And Iran proved that they can reach out and touch you, you know, and they proved that, look, I mean, the American military is so screwed in all of this that they're not even able to take on the real actual goat herders. And I'm talking about the Houthis.
Yeah.
These guys are actual, like, these are the guys that you literally see walking around with goats. They're like literally goat herding Arabs. They're the ones that you're supposed to believe the Iranians actually are.
Right.
We have to go all the way around the southern tip of Africa in order to get into the region, in order to avoid the Houthis and their like built in my fucking garage missile rocket things. They're like Saddam Hussein, you know, reckless Scud missiles that, you know, would just fall wherever they fell. Like, we're just going to send them that way, and they just fall wherever they fall. Well, they were effective, weren't they?
Yeah.
Effective enough that you can't mess with the Houthis. You have to go all the way around the southern tip of Africa in order to get into the region. And then once you do, Iran has hypersonic missiles. They have mines in the waterways. They control the access.
Yep.
You can't go in by air. You can't go in by water. What is the only way that you could imagine concocting a plan? The only thing feasible is you got to have hundreds of thousands of people dying in waves.
Yep.
You know, it'll make Normandy look like, you know, the carnival, the state fair or something. I mean, it's not something that can be done without that blood and without like massive numbers. And
Israel doesn't have,
you know, Turning Point turning point was Israel doesn't fight in wars with anybody.
Yep.
They go in after the fact. The IDF is on the ground in Venezuela, thick, after we went in there and, effectively took that country on behalf of Paul Singer, the Jewish billionaire who acquired Citgo in a Delaware court presided over by an AIPAC judge. He basically rented. I think it was just a setup. I don't even think it was a military operation necessarily. I think it just took a small contingent of people. I think somebody inside of Maduro's inner circle gave him up. And you know how this happened and when? The timing, I'm sure it's just another coincidence. But this happened right on the heels of Nicolas Maduro. And I'm going to quote, and this is a legitimate quote, so this won't be a violation of terms of service. But Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, said, and I quote, Benjamin Milkowski is a fake Jew and a crook from Poland, end quote. That is not something that you're allowed to say. And it was the day that he said that, I said, this guy doesn't have too much longer. 2 weeks later, it was, we're kidnapping Nicolas Maduro, the president of a sovereign nation in the Western Hemisphere, and his wife, by the way, putting them on an aircraft carrier, putting them through the humiliation ritual in a bunch of different outfits, dragging them back to face trial at the SDNY. What they're charged with, I guess, I don't know. We haven't really heard. Allegedly, they're being held purportedly in the same facility that held Jeffrey Epstein before he killed himself with a paper bed sheet all by himself. I guess that's what's going on with Nicolas Maduro, but now the same plan is in effect in Venezuela.
Yeah.
And now the same Venezuela, or excuse me, in Cuba. So before Venezuela happened, a lot of people don't know this. It was obviously not reported on any mainstream networks. We reported on it here, but obviously there's an active a tactic of suppression being used. So I wouldn't be surprised or faulty if you didn't hear me say this, but before that happened with Nicolas Maduro and Celia Flores in Venezuela, about 2 weeks before that, immediately on the heels of Maduro's comments about Benjamin Netanyahu, he was visited by John Ratcliffe. And John Ratcliffe on a SAM flight, you can see it, who's the director of the CIA, was there talking to Venezuelan diplomats. The director of the CIA doesn't just, willy-nilly fly into your country and start talking to government officials around you unless there's, something about to pop off. The same thing happened in 2014, a couple of weeks before, the CIA effected a violent coup to unseat a democratically elected administration before installing Volodymyr Zelensky. And then they used the the Talmudic-controlled American media to convince you that it was like this popular BLM-style uprising.
Right.
Well, they sent John Ratcliffe into Venezuela. The next thing you know, bang, everybody's unconscious. Somebody gives up Nicolas Maduro, however it went down. He's in custody. They topple that. Trump is effectively, more accurately, Miriam Adelson is effectively the interim president of Venezuela, and the IDF are on the ground there. And then we reportedly sent billions of dollars in oil directly to Israel. It didn't come here. Despite the fact that it's not the greatest oil, it's super thick, it takes a lot to refine it, all these things. It's still billions of dollars in oil that did not benefit the American people in any way. It did, however, benefit Israel. But now Ratcliffe has visited Cuba. And what came right on the heels of Ratcliffe visiting Cuba? The State Department, Marco Rubio and crew, and Sarah Rogers, because she's the Undersecretary of State, they announced that arrest warrants and indictments have been prepared for Raul Castro. And so now you can expect the Venezuela plot to just be kind of replicated, rinse, wash, repeat, and then used in Cuba. And when you look historically at these countries where we topple, leadership, you could talk about Bashar al-Assad in Syria, Muammar Gaddafi. Saddam Hussein, who wanted his own system of monetary exchange outside of a Rothschild-controlled central banking system. They, these countries and these leaders, historically, there's a precedent. The mustache man, there's a precedent for what their fate is, and their fates are all very similar. So they would love to do that to Vladimir Putin. Obviously, he's been demonized as the boogeyman by the same media for, I don't know how many years as this ruthless dictator. I've heard rumors that Vladimir Putin is controlled by the tribe. But, what I do is I judge people by their actions. I don't know him. I've never sat down and interviewed him. I would love to.
Yeah.
There was actually an opportunity presented to me to do that, to sit down with him in the Kremlin, which would have been historic because he was a wartime president, because we remember that he woke up willy-nilly one day and just decided to be a war criminal and go invade Ukraine for no reason. Right. He was going to overthrow all of Europe, remember? Yeah. Because he's an insane man. But anyways, I think that, just judging on what I can see from where I sit, it appears that, there is a central bank in Russia, but its influence, politically speaking, has been effectively neutered. He hasn't really allowed, and although there is a presence of, Judeo influence, I guess you would say, there is a presence. I just don't think that it has the muster, that he hasn't really allowed that power structure to fully take. And the reason why I say this is just like evidenced by the fact that all of these beautiful places of worship for Orthodox Christians have been built under Vladimir Putin's reign. Yep. And, we're not talking about the abominations that you see, like the churches that are built here, they look like prisons. Yeah. No, I'm talking about like gold ensconced, beautiful cathedrals. And I could be totally wrong. I could be way off based on Putin. I don't know. I'm just observing, from afar. And the thing is, it really at this point is going to come down to brass tacks. You're going to see who's who when push comes to shove and it's decided that it's time to go and do something in Iran. They can't do it from the air. There's nobody willing to really go anymore. I think that there's not an issue that is, as I said, more radicalized, more polarized, more focused on than the Israel issue by the bank of blood that it would take, that would be necessary to affect any kind of a regime change or overthrowing, like what happened in Ukraine, I don't think can be easily done in Iran. No, I just don't. And where it's been done everywhere, whether it's been failed color revolutions or successful ones, you can see what the outcome has been everywhere and who was responsible for it. And I just don't see that. They tried the color revolution tactic in Iran. Yep. These were the protesters that were being killed, and we were going to go liberate these oppressed Iranians from the Ayatollah. Well, how oppressed were they, and how much did they really despise the Ayatollah? I think 40 million people showed up at his funeral.
Yeah. Yeah.
So nobody's convincing me here.
No.
And this is the agenda. And that's exactly what it boils down to. So when it comes back to people like, hey, we get it. The killing of Charlie Kirk was tragic. I understand, there's a lot of questions around this, but you can't be a one topic guy. You got to have a different horse in the race. You can't be a one trick pony. And this is what like Alex Jones will say, and he'll say this about it, like if somebody's focused on Israel, well, you can't focus on any of the issues that we have discussed here tonight without discussing the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Because all of these things would have been much more loudly opposed by a much bigger platform and a much larger swath of the future of our country in every way, had Charlie Kirk been able to go on tour and impact his audience in the way that it appears he was going to do. Yep. And also, you can't talk about any of these issues without talking about Israel and Talmudic Judaism. Yeah. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be one of these guys who's gaslit into believing that there is a way to remove the spiritual component, the Talmudic Judaism, from all of this. And that's evidenced by the fact that, there's that infamous picture of Jeffrey Epstein sitting at his desk with his brown U.S. Army sweats kicked up. And behind him is every book of the Talmud in a perfectly built custom bookshelf that was designed horizontally and vertically to house every book of the Talmud. Talmudic Judaism is at the center of all of this. Yep. And, it's not fair to say, that it's the Jews and that it's Israel without understanding that these people are not who they say they are. Right. And that these are the people, if you believe and read the red print in the Bible, that these are the people that Jesus Christ was talking about when he referred to the synagogue of Satan. Yeah. That's who we're dealing with here, and the agenda is Greater Israel, and it's been stated openly. And This is not a group of people who are just going to wake up one day and have a coming to Jesus and
No.
decide that they've had enough of this evil. They're just not going to stop until they're stopped.
Yeah.
And I think that a Charlie Kirk run for president would have been a big wrench in that plan.
Oh, it would have been
And
huge.
I think that, obviously the writing is on the wall that he was kind of cast as a character in the pipeline to be the vice presidential ticket mate to JD Vance, and then allow JD Vance, the Peter Thiel creation, to do his Palantir AI driven super state flock camera surveillance state thing. And then it would have been Charlie Kirk would have slid in, and then maybe a Nick Fuentes who's been promised political power, which is why you see the path that he's on. But Charlie Kirk was no longer willing to read the lines from the script, and that's where everything went bad. And I think that it would have been that he would have instead been contesting JD Vance, and he would have been running for president, and he would have been largely supported by a group of people who probably knew that voting was fake and gay, and that American politics is nothing more than the entertainment arm of the military industrial complex, who would have been re-engaged, reinvigorated, and would have not accepted no for an answer when it came to his election. That was a really serious threat. And so before allowing it to get to that point, they just did what they had to do. It's pretty obvious to me.
Yeah, that's 100% my take. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
I got to get going, brother.
All right.
I'm actually 12 minutes late to
you're good.
Another thing I got to do, but
all right.
I really appreciate you having me on, and the chat has been great. Do you want to do some super chats, by the way? Because I don't want to, if people have paid to ask something specific or whatever, I don't want to.
Yeah, let's do that real quick.
Out. Let me just hold on. Let me just send a text real quick and let him know that I'm running a little bit late.
Okay. This one's just a shout out, so I'll read it while you're doing that. It just says, shout out to Stu and Matt doing big things. Thank you, Octavia. Have you had Octavia on? She's the lawyer.
She's great.
Yeah, she's amazing.
The way that I was introduced to her, actually, I have open phone lines on my show, and the haters call and the trolls call and really good people call. And she was one of these people that just like blew my mind when she called in with a very well articulated, technical, very well educated, objective approach to breaking down some of the filings and goings on during the preliminary hearings. And I was like, wow, will you be like my, legal correspondent throughout this? And she's like, yeah, of course I will. And I don't know if I was supposed to have known her, if she had a presence already and was already doing shows, but I just respected her flow and the way that she was able to get down. And I'm just a direct guy. And kind of an extreme guy, but I'm an extremely direct guy. And so I just appreciate that. Let's get down to brass tacks here. What are we dealing with? And she's got that approach, and she's really just got no dog in the fight other than the pursuit of truth. That's the way that I've read her. And I like to think that I'm a pretty good judge of character. So yeah, shout out to you, Octavia.
Yeah, she's been holding it down on X and, combating, the Andrea Burkharts of TPUSA shilling, or the Viva Fries, these guys that say they're lawyers, and
it's just so disingenuous, isn't it?
Yep. Here we go. Stu, I finally joined your platform. Absolutely love your bold, direct truth. Matt, I also enjoy your show. Nice Friday night surprise. Christ is King. Thank you, Janie.
Thank you, Janie. I appreciate that.
Let's go. I'm a big Candace fan, but from day one, I recognized Stu Peters was first on the scene, and he was spot on from day one. I commented that to her. Yeah, you should.
Yeah, and that's fine. Look, that is objectively true. I didn't know at the very beginning if it was because she had some sort of a personal relationship with Erica, but I thought that she was really slow on the Erica stuff. All it took was one fundraising text for me. All it took was one, firework to go off behind her in her glittery pantsuit. And, it was like, okay, who is this bitch? And so immediately we dug into that. And then of course it was, on the 27th, the 24th of September, the night of the 24th, I believe it was, or 23rd, whatever it was, the exploding mic thing. And I just looked at a Blake Bednar's video, Destiny Resendez and John Bray, who, by the way, that guy, man, if you guys haven't been to John Bray's website, I don't remember what it is exactly. I just go to his X page and then click it's marked on the top. But I mean, this guy's heat map analysis, which has been followed up with, I mean, all the guy does is his farm work at Blue Mountain Farm, and then this. I mean, this guy was like months ago, he was like ordering like pig skins to use because it's the closest to human flesh. And he was like showing the angle, like how this thing could have done what it did. So John Bray was doing good work. And yeah, I don't know. And then Candace went on to, to Sean Ryan, and she kind of made the mic thing her own. I think she did mention John Bray, but yeah, that's obvious, but she's on it now. There it is. Yeah. What is it? Epicenter what?
Yeah, follow the epicenter.
Yeah, follow the epicenter.
Yeah.
But she's on it now, and it was me who like criticized that first, and then saw her make other moves where I recognize the flow. Like I understand, I get it, and now being faced with in my my own personal position, some kind of strategic decisions that I have to make.
Right.
Is I have a whole different level of appreciation, for what she did. So, but I appreciate you recognizing game, recognize game. Yeah. When you're on it, you're on it. It's unpopular sometimes, but it was the same thing with COVID. It was the same thing with the shots. It was the same thing with Donald Trump. It was the same thing with Israel. And now this is just like, I'm one of these guys that where it's like, if I can see it, I'm just going to say it.
Yep.
And if it's unpopular, I'll take the arrows. I get it. It was wildly unpopular to oppose Trump going into 2024. And I was like, I can see the writing on the wall. I know what's going on here. So I'm just going to say it. And like JD Sharp, who I respect a lot. If you guys don't know JD Sharp, he does great work. He's the founder of Uncensored AI, which is the only AI platform on the planet that is not controlled or programmed by the same power structure. Uncensored AI, and he's made a lot of really accurate shot calls on my network, and so I respect it tremendously. But even he, leading up to the election, on election night, was in West Palm, and he was like, yeah, this and that, and I go, look around you right now, and I was here, Frankie Stocks was here, we were live, and the monitors were up, and I could see in the monitors all of the hats that everybody was wearing. I could see all of the hairstyles that everybody had around JD Sharp, and I was like, we were live, and I was like, look around, and he looked around and he looked at back at the camera, and he was like, oh my God, and I was like, yeah, and so it just takes, people want to believe that there are well-intended people, and there are, but more of the people obviously the majority of, with the exception of just a few notables, and then you see what their fate is. We talked about Cynthia McKinney, Joe Kent. We talked about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey. We see what happens to these people who really do stand their ground for as long as they can, but ultimately the result is the same, and that is because there are no redeemable qualities left in this, the current political setup in any aspect, whether you're talking about the electoral college system or the right-left paradigm. I mean, none of it is effective. They're all compromised and controlled in one way or another, and it's a system that needs to be torn down and completely abolished. And we would be derelict in our duties as Americans to not recognize that this is a system that is oppressive to our God-given inherent rights as Americans, and that it is time to reflect on what the Constitution directs us to do as Americans. So anyway, thank you for recognizing that. It's not always easy to be, you take a lot of arrows when you're out there, and the recognition is important because there's a certain price tag that goes along with that in a lot of cases.
Octavia says, yes, our house has been rocking with Stu since C19. Hold on. Click the wrong one. Okay, Shades, keep up the good work. I think Terrell Farnsworth was or I think that's who she's talking about. Tara Farnsworth was continuing the live stream back in the headquarters. From there, it was broadcast. That's how Bibi, Ben Shapiro, the White House, etc., was directed to get the SD card after headquarters, and everyone saw the live feed. Stay strong, Semper Fi.
Yeah,
because there's
makes
a lot
sense.
of people that say
And
that
wasn't it like Ben Shapiro's own admission that he was talking to
the security
Charlie
team
Kirk's security
in the
like,
car
why?
while they're driving him
You
to
know,
the hospital.
and why would JD Vance be calling for Mikey McCoy? You know, I don't believe that he was. I believe that when Brian Harpole said the chief of staff that I was standing next to at Timpanogos, I believe that it was Jacob Recess. And I believe that because Jacob Recess is on the Fort Huachuca list. I believe that because Jacob Recess is now leaving the United States government. Why would you do that? You're 18 months in, what is it, almost 19 months into a Trump administration where your guy is the horse that's slated to be the next guy. That's your horse, man. That's who you rode in on. That's your guy, JD Vance. And he's going to be like almost guaranteed a shoe-in to be the next president,
Right.
per the agenda. And you're just like unexpectedly leaving the United States government just at about the time that the heat was turned up on Fort Huachuca. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, good recognition. That's pattern recognition right there.
Get him out of sight, out of mind. Octavia, this is for Matt to buy back some of his time he spends watching the Charlie Kirk show every day, so we don't have to. Shout out to you taking one for the team. Thank you, Octavia. Whimsisms is it was Tucker. He said that he sent Blake over to Charlie on his podcast, I believe. He was grateful that Charlie hired him.
Well, I don't know if that was at the same time that Blake was introduced to me, because when Blake was introduced to me, it was in the immediate aftermath of his departure from Tucker's show. And I don't know exactly how that departure took place. I know about the, you know, the racist comments or the stalking or whatever the allegations are, which honestly, I haven't even really looked that much into. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever. It was a separation. And I already know that Blake Neff now. I know that he's a piece of shit. So to me, those specific allegations, it doesn't really matter. I just think the guy is a scumbag, to be honest. But anyway, that was at the time that separation was fresh when he came to me. And it was after having worked with me for, I don't know exactly, a year-ish, maybe more, maybe a little bit more. I don't remember exactly how long it was. I would have to look. We just talked about this the other day. But it was the latter part of his relationship with me that he told me that he was going to be splitting his workload and working with TPUSA. And at that point, like, I wasn't a guy that was really, I wasn't really like familiar with TPUSA. Like, I had heard of it, but I didn't realize how big of an organ it was. And it didn't really matter at the time that I was talking about the things that I was discussing and the, you know, like the war on Western medicine and big pharma. Conventional politics wasn't really in my lane. It wasn't my focus. I wasn't talking about Republicans and Democrats and voting and all this other shit. I was talking about how very obviously and blatantly elections are rigged and fake, but I didn't know how big Turning Point was or really fully understand its mechanism. I had heard of Charlie Kirk, of course. I had heard of Turning Point, of course. And so I was just like, yeah, whatever. Okay, fine. And then, you know, later throughout the relationship, when immediately at the time that it was separating, he said that he was taking on full-time workload for Charlie. So I don't know. Maybe Tucker didn't know that Blake was working with me. Maybe Tucker just assumed that Blake was still out of work and had been since their separation. And maybe Tucker's being honest when he says that, and that's why he's representing that. I don't have any evidence that that's a lie, but it's just, I guess I just want to know if there were other parties involved with that. And that's only because of things that have happened to me that I don't believe to be coincidental in hindsight. So And that's why I asked that question. It's not because, I'm like casting doubt on Tucker. I kind of know where Tucker's at least I think. And I think that's kind of the same position that everybody else is in when it comes to a guy like me. I don't think that he can afford to sit down with me. I think reputationally, there's probably no upside to him in having a conversation with me, because he knows where it's going to go. And obviously there's going to be a lot of pushback and hit pieces written, and but I don't know, maybe he's willing to take those arrows, because I've seen him be recently very hard line on a lot of these issues. I see the way that he completely dissected Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
He went over to Israel and did the same thing to Mike Huckabee.
Yeah.
He's pretty straightforward on his views of Israel.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe he will. I hope that he does. I think it'd be
dope.
a really beneficial conversation for his audience. And I think that there's a lot of topics that we could discuss in great detail that, as to this point, he hasn't really, I think he's aware of them, and maybe he's even mentioned them. But I think that the intricacies of some of these things when they're laid out are really interesting to look at, especially in light of everything that's happened in the wake of Charlie's assassination.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be great. I hope he does.
Yeah, me too. I'd watch that. Who?
Be great exposure for the work that we do here as well.
Yeah.
Obviously there are millions of people in his audience that have never even heard of me and have no idea where to find our content. So it would be great all the way around.
Yeah, I agree. Zamet says on 9/10/2025.
I'm not willing to pay $300,000 though to go and sit down and talk to him.
Yeah, because you're not Andrew Wilson. 9/10/2025, JFK 2.0, don't let it stand. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Tucker loves Erica. I just saw that fly by in the chat. I think that's true.
Yeah, that does weird. That bothers me still.
Yeah, well, I think Tucker, given his position in media for as long as he was in media, and obviously his family ties and, generational proximity, I guess you could say, to the military industrial complex or the intel community. You have to consider all of that.
Yeah.
But also, Joe Kent is cut from the same cloth, and now the two of them are sitting down together with Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And so I don't know if that's a coalition, that would be great. If it's a real opposition and they're really going to be honest and truthful and they're really going to go balls on the table, then I support that 100%. But if this is like some watered down, kind of like dissident group that's going to try to, be a pressure group or lobby, and use their platforms, I don't know. I hope it's real.
Yeah, me too.
We'll see in due time. The clock is ticking, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Was President Adelson ever sworn in? Trump never actually swore in on the Bible, right? He didn't put his hand on his Bible this time, or his hand on the Bible this time, right?
No.
Yeah.
He didn't, because he's a Jew.
Yeah. And his daughter is too. Did you see that she just recently did? Who did she sit down with recently and did an interview?
I don't remember who it was, but I did see a clip of it, and she was talking about her conversion to Judaism.
Yeah, leaving,
which
Christ.
is more accurately described as rejecting Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Oh, she was sitting down with Miriam Adelson. That's who she was sitting down with.
Yes. I was on the tip. I could see her freaking frizzy hair and her freaking glasses.
And her demon face.
Yes.
All sunken in. None of these people look well.
No.
They're not handling the situation very well. Can you imagine? Imagine being one of these turning point people. Imagine that you are the laser focus of the entire world and that nobody believes you.
Bro, that's pressure. Good. They deserve every freaking ounce of it. That's why
you don't deserve any answers from them.
Yeah.
They don't owe you anything.
Yeah. That's why Andrew Colvit's eyes look like they're sinking out of his head right now, because he can't sleep.
They all do.
Yeah.
They all do. Everybody that's attached to this. I mean, look at the people on Fox News. They look unhealthy. Like these Brian Kilmeade, like he completely lost his, he used to have like a youthful appearance, and it's not just because he got older. I mean, like these people are aging
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going the other way, man. I'm getting more healthy.
Same.
I'm getting more focused. I'm getting more in shape, bigger, stronger, faster, more explosive, more cognitively responsible, more responsible with my language, the respect for the power of the tongue, deeper and deeper conviction, deeper and deeper obedience, hitting my face more and more every day. Like I'm going the other direction.
Yep.
We're at war, and we're going to have to be about our business.
Yep. You train? Do you do kickboxing? What do you do? Do you box?
No, I don't box anymore. I did up until about a year and a half ago, and now I do a lot of weightlifting.
Okay.
I fought for so long and did it in real life, and boxing to me is like, it's a sport, obviously, right?
For sure.
So when you fight on the streets for as many years as I did, and you're literally in a life and death fight because you're introducing a gun to the situation, and these people are struggling with you for your firearm, and it's like if you lose a fight, you're dead.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I've just, and also, as in shape and as in tune as I am, I just don't want there to be like these rules, I'm not emotionally involved when I fight. And that's one thing that, it generates a lot of losses for people when they're emotionally involved in fighting.
Yeah.
So when I start to get frustrating because of the rules of a game like boxing, or a sport like boxing, then it becomes like I start beating myself up, and it's like, I don't know. It's just, and the boxers, like where I'm at, they're focused on like competition style point scoring.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm more focused on like, if we're going to fight, let's fucking fight, or I'm just going to lift. I coach baseball. I play baseball still. And as a matter of fact, I still bring the game. I'm a catcher. I'm a good hitter. So I really enjoy that. I focus a lot of my time when I'm not here researching, listening, talking to people, strategizing. When I'm not doing that, like I'm with my kids.
Yeah.
And they are 100% my top priority. And, so it's God, it's my kids, it's this network, and then, really paying attention to myself. So, but if you want to box, come box.
No, I don't box. I do jujitsu though. I've been doing it since 2018.
I did that for 4 years. Man, I got my first day in jujitsu. I was lined up across from this like 315-pound black belt, and it's like, this is jujitsu.
Yeah.
So it's like you think, oh well, this guy's not mobile. But the second that he gets his hands on you, and he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter. Like, it's done. You're done.
Yeah.
So, and then, I, of course, sparred him several times. Katasic was his name. And, I'll never forget Katasic. And he's an instructor. But yeah, jiu-jitsu was a lot of fun. That's something that I think really helped me in my bounty hunting days too, because you take a lot of guys to the ground, to neutralize them.
Yep.
The quicker you can take the fight to the ground, the better.
Yep.
You don't want to go blow for blow blow for blow is a lot less effective.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So get in shape, don't, like, I just did a post on X about this today. Go see my X post. You see my before and after,
I saw it.
This is, and this is when you decide, like, what are you going to do? You come to a T in the road. What are you going to do? Do I like what I see when I look in the mirror? If I'm being objectively bare naked honest, do I like what's looking back at me?
Right.
Am I aging more than I should be? Am I allowing the stress to get to me?
Yeah.
Be honest with yourself. The way that you build better is obviously by attacking your biggest weakness, and then working on that weakness until it no longer is, and then identifying your next weakness. But a lot of people have you know, they're inclined to rely or lean on their pride a little bit.
Yeah, they avoid
And
it.
I did that, you know, I'll admit. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a sinner. I'm an imperfect
Yeah.
man, of course. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, everybody deals with pride.
Yeah.
And I would say on a daily basis, people have to have their egos checked.
Yeah.
It's easy for things to go to your head when you're winning.
Yeah.
And you just gotta stay humble. You gotta stay on your grind. You gotta understand what your responsibilities are, and that's where I'm at. So if anybody wants to know what I'm on, that is what I'm keying in on. That's what I'm locked into.
100%. Yeah. Aside from like staying tuned into what's going on in our country and our community, it's like my faith, my family, and then taking care of myself, going to the gym, eating right. I don't drink, I don't smoke. Extremely disciplined. I'm, you know, down to the minute of the day. Like I have my schedule timed out. And then any downtime I have is with my family. So 100%. Couldn't agree with you more. Okay, let me try to find one that's a question.
You know, this guy that I text telling him that I was going to be a little bit late.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got no response. So I think we're golden.
Okay.
No pressure on the time.
Okay.
I'm going to stick around for like another 20 minutes. I'm going to
Okay.
call it quits at midnight, if you don't mind.
No, that's perfect, bro. That's perfect.
All right.
All right. Let me read this. We got, wow, you have my attention. Absolutely right. Zamet said, Candace speaks for real, Charlie. The fake AI Charlie Kirk show is a joke. Yeah. I mean, have you seen
I
the
agree.
numbers?
Yeah. I mean, again, when I said imagine these people, I mean in every way. Like you're walking around in public. Are you looking over your shoulder? You know, you're going into an X space. Are you making sure that all your bases is covered and all the right people are banned from entering the conversation? You know, are you looking at who the listeners are, seeing who's coming in the room?
Yeah.
You know, are you ordering your food from only restaurants that you know? You know, what are you doing exactly? How are you sleeping at night? How's that going? How's your sleep?
Yeah.
And then what about show prep? Like, what are we going to talk about knowing that nobody believes anything that we say? Like, are you going and actually reading the comments? Are you looking at the replies to any one of your tweets? I know you are.
Yeah.
You know, how you holding up? How's that treating you? You know, is it worth it? Is it worth it? I really hope that it's worth it, because you are buying a one-way ticket.
Yeah.
And, you know,
they took
I do not envy that position at all.
No.
That show is garbage. It's unlistenable.
Yep.
It's unwatchable. It's embarrassing. They can't put together a fucking coherent thought.
No.
They can't string two sentences together. Andrew Colvett looks like shit. I'm not gonna call names.
Yeah.
Because it just sounds dumb. I mean, I was gonna say he's stupid, but you know, really he is. I mean, these people are just bloviating blobs of human scum.
Yeah.
You feel like you got to open a window or take a shower. And I get that same feeling every time Benny Johnson talks with his hostage behind him, you know, and it's like the same thing, like when Howard Lutnick belly chuckles every time Epstein and his activities are brought up, standing behind Donald Trump on a tarmac or in the Oval Office. You know, it's that gross, permeating Andrew Wilson, smoke ashtray breath, you know, layer of disgusting filth.
Yeah.
These people are just dirty, sellout, empty, hollowed out spaces where the echoes of Talmudic mysticism spew from. You know, they're tricksters, they're liars, they're con artists, they're thieves, you know, they're disgusting, vile scumbags.
Yeah.
And I think I just said, I'm not going to call names. And then I literally used every adjective that I could think of.
It's hard not to, bro. It's hard not to.
Yeah, it is. It's just, but everybody knows that feeling, right? I mean, if we're being honest, it is what it is. So anyway.
Was the AES factory blown up because they messed up the explosive part of the shape charge? Were they killed because they brought heat and needed to be silenced?
I just think that once millions of people view a video and start passing around the idea that it was the lavalier microphone. And then knowing that there is a publicly discoverable DoD contract for an anti-personnel microexplosive that very easily points back to accurate energetic systems.
Yeah.
That's a lot of liability. That's got to go. So I think it was, also a military action. And again, my positive evidence for that would be the circumstantial evidence that we just talked about. The
flight,
the documented evidence, which is the contract. And then, the other data, which is, the flight, a SAM flight that almost exclusively is used by Department of War admin is flying over it that day. Yeah. I mean, I think it's obviously a cover our tracks scenario. I don't know if it was because they effed it up,
John Bray thinks it was, and I agree that, so when you make it, they're going to keep a batch of it in the facility, right? In case that they need to reorder more and they renew the contract, and it's going to be like a fingerprint. And that's also why they had to cover up the crime scene. They had to take 10 inches of soil, throw all the sod away, and put down pavers, because and that's why they had to get rid of the shirt. They had to get rid of anything, because if there was just a trace element of this explosive material, and then they can, under a microscope, they can, look at it and they could compare it to one that's on file at the facility. It's traced right back to them.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think you're 100% right. Yeah. It's like a serial number.
Yeah.
This thing could have only been produced from here.
Yeah.
But when it blows up and it kills everybody inside, and it's now been like directly tied to this, it's going to be pretty obvious that when you can't trace that explosive residue fingerprint or DNA,
right,
explosive DNA back to any place that's currently in operation, you could probably reasonably deduce that it was manufactured at a place that no longer is in existence.
Yeah.
And the only place that's recently no longer in existence, they didn't just go out of business, decide to shut her down one day. It wasn't a mom and pop shop. It was a defense contractor that had been working with and fulfilling contracts for the Department of Defense for many, many years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's very intuitive, I would say, of John Bray to say that. And I know why he's saying that. It's true.
Yeah.
And that's why they had to get rid of, 10 inches of dirt. And by the way, where the blood was still dripping down the arms of the people who were sent there by, who I have been told, by 3 people who work in, around, adjacent to, know what's going on, have to cover tracks here. And, there's got to be some ambiguity here, because, I don't want anybody put in a position. But I would say that it was Russell Long, who works at UVU. He's the plumbing lead that sent UVU employees to help state officials at UVU to tear out the sod. And they didn't tear it out. They cut it out. They rolled it up.
Yep.
And these guys didn't know why they were there. And they were sending pictures of their blood-soaked forearms to the guy that sent them there. And I was told by 3 different people who work in and around and would know. I've talked to 3 different people who absolutely would know. And by the way, who didn't independently know that they were all talking to me. So it wasn't like a concocted story for Stu Peters. And I never really ran hard with the story. But it was said that, there were UVU employees that were there who were pissed off that they had blood on their arms, because there was just like so much blood there and it was dripping, and they sent these pictures. So, I called Russell Long and I asked him about this incident, and he told me he doesn't want anything to do with it. He doesn't know what I'm talking about, and that there were no UVU employees there. Well, then we had images that were provided to us, which I did air, that show these guys very clearly. You can tell who they are, that are tearing up this sod. And then when you go to UVU's website, you can see that these guys are in fact UVU pictured employees on their own website. So why would he lie to me about UVU employees having been a part of ripping out that sod? Like, what is Russell Long's motive to lie in that instance? I guess I would be curious to know. So I was curious, and so I submitted it's not called a FOIA to Utah Valley University. It's the same thing though. It's the equivalent of a FOIA.
A grandma.
Yeah, maybe that was it. It was a request for information.
Yeah.
And I said I wanted to know the names of the Utah Valley University employees who on this date at this time were participating in a renovation project at this specific location. And I was very specific about all of those things.
Yeah.
What I wanted, when they were where, what they were doing, and at what exact location. And their response to me was that they could not fulfill my request because I didn't make a specific request.
Specific enough. That's a common response. Yeah. Yeah, it's stupid.
So very clearly, they don't want to tell.
Correct.
Just like Turning Point USA was really sensitive about people knowing that Mikey McCoy was at Bill Ackman's mansion in the Hamptons at that struggle session. I guess Utah Valley University is very concerned about people knowing who it was that was on the ground. Now, that could be because they want to protect the identity of these people who were just like doing their job. But given the weight of what occurred there on the 10th, it would be my opinion, at least, that if these people don't come forward on their own, that they are then just as equally as guilty as being complicit in the cover-up.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's just my opinion, but take it how you will, I guess.
Yeah. Great job, gentlemen. Stay strong. I'm a nurse. No one will take me seriously. Suspect entering stairwell from Sunshine has obvious large umbilical hernia. Audi BB?
Belly button.
Oh, okay. Belly button. Would be easy to prove, not Tyler. Oh, I've heard someone say this earlier today.
I didn't notice the belly button, but I did notice that Tyler Robinson is chinless and the guy on the stairs has a chin. So it can't be Tyler Robinson.
I agree with that.
Unless he had facial reconstruction surgery while he was eating a Chick-fil-A, having a treat at Dairy Queen, and a steak in Panguitch.
Yeah.
He was really hungry that day, wasn't he?
Well, why don't we see the cameras from, I mean, we don't see cameras from anywhere that show that it's him, but, you know, inside.
That was a hungry little assassin. Like, I know if it were my first assassination, I wouldn't be able to do that shit on an empty stomach. I would have to have a Chick-fil-A. You know, because the first thing I would be thinking about would be satisfying my hunger.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I mean, after a job well done, yeah, let's go have a treat. Yep. Go get an ice cream treat. And that's not enough. So I need some protein, you know, like
steak and potatoes.
The increased metabolism is just uncanny, you know, at times of first assassinations ever in broad daylight in front of 3,000 people. And believing I'm going to get away.
It's so ridiculous. The Great Awakening.
Maybe get an Airbnb, call up some homies.
And throw a party,
you know,
have some girls over.
Yeah, or just party with the guys that were, you know, waiting on the tree line after the roof jumper did his roof jumping.
The guys that were in the white car that's following him around everywhere too.
Yeah, I wonder if that white car was in the same parking lot Blake Neff was meeting during the hour ahead of his arrival at UVU. I wonder if during the 7:30, 8:30 hours, if any of these people were meeting with Blake Neff.
When he was
be interesting to know, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
When he was marking time.
Yeah. Freaking A, dude.
I've already given an answer. I've already answered that question. I was marking time. Where? Don't know. Doesn't matter. What vehicle were you in? Don't know. Doesn't matter.
Who was in the car?
You expect me to like just recall all of these things? Who were you with? I mean, I don't know. It could have been Benjamin Netanyahu. It could have been like, really? You don't know who you were with or what vehicle you were in or where you were or what you were doing.
And then the girl Charlotte in the X space was like, you were with Danny Phillips. And she called him out on it. And he goes, oh, yeah. It's like, how do we know more about this day than these people pretend like they don't remember? He's obviously lying.
Obviously lying.
Yeah. The Great Awakening has finally started. Just remember the world is a stage. Stay objective and alert. I'm sure many of your favorite talking heads will try to lead you astray. Thank you so much for that, John. Zamet, Ambassador Huckabee interview with Pollard in Jerusalem embassy. Yeah, that was strange. Did you ever see that?
The guy was received like a hero.
Yep.
With big heads of state hugs on the tarmac when he flew over on a Miriam Adelson-owned Boeing business jet that likes to meet up with Turning Point planes.
I don't know how Huckabee does what he does. Like, he's clearly not. He's saying, remember when he was on stage and he's like, Israel takes goes through greater lengths to not kill civilians in the United States. The stuff that this guy.
There would be no America if it were not for Israel.
Yeah. I just can't take these people. Who met with Tyler Robinson on the morning of 9/10 asking for a friend? Oh, I think you're talking about the Turning Point USA staff that supposedly, I don't believe Tyler Robinson went on campus, though, personally, at all that day. It's not Eagle Boy in the afternoon in the black outfit. That's not him. The two maroon shirts aren't him. That's their story. That's TPUSA. They told us that supposedly Tyler Robinson came on campus and interacted with two people at a tent that morning at like 8:30.
Was one of those people Blake Neff?
I mean, that's a good question.
And which one of those guys was it? Was the left-handed buff guy in the parking garage? Was it the guy with the chin on the stairwell? Was it the guy that was really hungry and had a Dairy Queen after a job well done? Like, which one of these maroon shirt guys was it? Or was it like the fictitious blob that nobody can make out on top of the roof? Like,
Veloci Center, Sasquatch.
Yeah. Which Tyler Robinson? Like, is Tyler Robinson even a real name, or is that just made up?
That's a great question. Like, same with Lance Twiggs. I mean,
I think he's real. I think they were going to kill him, and I think that's why he turned himself in at this point. And I just, I can't think of another, plausible
explanation.
Yeah. Other than, they knew that they were going to kill him.
Yeah.
And that's probably why the Hades plane was where it was when it scrambled out of Ontario, California. And rather than going back to base at Bliss, it went northeast to St. George. Like, the same plane that was doing 9/11 level maneuvers at 100 feet above sea level at the exact moment that Charlie Kirk was murdered. Like, okay.
You're a conspiracy theorist. Shut up, dude.
I know. It's wild.
Stop noticing. You're demonic for noticing. Stu, X took out my blue check as well. What does that say? St. John Chrysostom. I don't know. I'm so bad at handles. Is my handle. I follow both of you and Matt, Crisis King. Thank you, Alex Got Mittens. All right. I used to look Brandon Straka, and I don't think you meant
probably like.
Yeah, I used to like Brandon Straka, and now I'm livings at him.
Probably livid
at him. Yeah. What do you think? Yeah, I don't trust Brandon Straka after.
I've had conversations with Brandon Straka. He called me starting about a year and a half ago, and he was telling me that, he went through some similar attacks that I have been through. And he's been, kind of associated or affiliated with or tied to some of the same groups of people who I've either known, come across, parted ways with, whatever. You bump into different people, obviously. And that he had been kind of like, fucked over, left and forgotten. And that, he was really mad at the MAGA movement. And now he sees that, it's not, MAGA is not what it should be. And, like Donald Trump really let us down, and kind of, like really normie kind of talking points and disgust with the federal government, but a disgust for Trump and, the feeling of being let down. And he was telling me that kind of to rebuild or rebrand, that he was going to start like this roundtable debate type platform. And he invited me to be in the first debate. And we were on the phone for like 2.5 hours. And I was taking time away from my kids on a family vacation to entertain his phone call about this whole thing. And 2 hours I thought was a little excessive, but whatever. And so I was going to kind of go on, and really at that point, it would have been me helping him out, because obviously my name has a higher marquee value than his does. So I was going to help him out. And then at the last minute, he reneged and he pulled the rug on me, and he was like, yeah, no, I went with somebody else. And who he went with was Harrison Smith. So, and then, like now this one, but there have been like 3 or 4 different times that Straka has invited me, and then like nothing ever comes of it.
Yeah.
And so I made a comment when I saw the cast of characters that was going to be at this roundtable on Wednesday, and it was like, look at what we have here. And then I named, who was there, whatever. And he actually texted me and he was like, you were invited to this, so I don't know why you didn't, you never got back to me. And I'm like, first of all, this was, a month and a half ago. I had no idea that it had anything to do with this. And I've been, forgive the vernacular here, balls deep in this thing. And you didn't even say like, what this is about. And this to me was just another one of these, invites that would never amount to anything. Yeah. And it's like, I don't run in circles with anybody.
Yeah.
And Brandon Straka's not really on my radar as somebody that, okay, good enough guy, whatever, maybe well-intentioned, I don't know, homosexual, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's openly gay, and whatever. I mean, that's everywhere, by the way. You can't mention Turning Point USA or American Governance without noticing the rampant homosexuality that plagues this country's quote unquote leadership.
Yeah.
It's just a closeted homosexuality, open homosexuality. Rick Grinnell, Scott Pressler, these people are like put up on a pedestals as conservative champions. What are you conserving by putting your penis in another man's butthole?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. But anyway, those aren't conservative values. So I've always had a little bit of a problem with that. But anyway, Straka, I just thought, I never got back to him, and I didn't know that was it. If he would have told me, hey, it's going to be Buckley Carlson and you and, some guys that have differing opinions or whatever, like I would have been there.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my experience with Straka. I don't know. I never really knew him. The walk away thing was always kind of fake and definitely gay because he is.
Yeah.
So I never really, he's never been on my radar, but I'm a little bit disappointed in the way that you could have at least got people who, are actually invested in this. And, it's not difficult to find those people because they stick out.
Yeah. And
there are people who like actually authentically seem to care about, the findings on all of this and are working with all of the right people and platforming all the right people and making the moves that would suggest that they are, legitimately motivated by their beliefs and what happened and what didn't happen. And I just don't think that he did a good job at that. I think it was, other than Buckley Carlson, it was just a huge disappointment. So on Brandon Straka, I don't really care here nor there. And then he texted me again last night. He sent me some voice note. I haven't even listened to it yet, but
I like Owen Schroyer better. I mean, because they both were J6ers, right?
Who?
Brandon Straka and Owen Schroyer. They were there, weren't they?
Well, Schroyer, they both were.
Yeah, but I like Owen Schroyer. I don't really respect Schroyer.
Well, yeah, definitely. I've got a lot of respect for Schroyer.
Yeah, I like him.
He's doing something different with his hair now.
Yeah, he dyed it blonde. Yeah.
But and that's another guy too that went on kind of the fitness arc. I don't know how long he's been on it, but he's in really good shape too. He's jacked, he's strong. And I wouldn't do that with my hair, but a lot of people probably criticize the way that I dress or the way that I do my hair. So, whatever, I'm not going to fag out here. I'm not homo maxing. It doesn't really make a huge difference to me. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's bold. So good on him. But no, I have a ton of respect for Owen Schroyer. I think he does great work.
Yeah, same. Stu, I laugh at your Erica Kirk Miss Piggy tweet. She's so vain. I love when people attack her fading looks. Yeah. Stu, what do you think of the Tucker silent on Candace? Shouldn't he back her?
Yeah, I think he should.
Yeah.
I do. And I think that that's an error on his part. And I would urge him to consider very loudly supporting Candace Owens in her efforts.
Yeah. He should follow Buckley's lead. Buckley did. I mean, he didn't do it a lot, but he did at least a little bit when he could on the show. Because that's like that whole other side just kept bringing up Candace like every chance they got. You know, Aviva Fry and, you know, Gary Meltdown.
Yeah, they want her attention.
Yep. Yep.
They want their names in her mouth.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they want to pair their names next to her name. Stu is making icon moves. Thank you. Let me try to find some questions. An interesting book is called The 13th Try by Arthur Kessler. It's about the Khazarians and how they became the Jews.
The Israelis.
Yes.
As they love to call themselves.
Yes. There's that.
The Israelis. What even is that? What is an Israeli?
I don't know.
Is that genetic? Can you be an Israeli? Would there be like ancient Israeli DNA? I don't know how that could be, because Israeli DNA wouldn't have existed until 1948. So what really are you if you're not Israeli?
Yeah, I mean, well, and most of them don't like Benjamin Netanyahu. He's not even isn't he Eastern European?
Yeah, what you would be is an Eastern European Silk Road Satanist.
Yeah.
And you would be a name stealer, and
yes, they changed their
you
name.
would be a witch of mysticism.
Yeah.
And you would not allow DNA testing, and
Which
you would
they
be
don't.
an imposter.
Correct.
Oh. Yeah, no, they don't.
Oh, you better not. FYI, Epstein lived on 9th East 71st Street, neighbor to Lutnick at 11 East 71st Street, 911 neighbors.
Yep. And Lutnick, by the way, is a big-time investor in Rumble. I don't know if you guys know that or not. I've been talking about that a lot recently. Yeah. Not only Howard Lutnick himself, and this is all discoverable by you guys. You can go verify what I'm saying. Don't believe me. Please look at the publicly filed SEC filings for Rumble, and you will find Howard Lutnick has a massive interest in Rumble. Not only that, but his firm, Cantor Fitzgerald, which was in the Trade Center towers. He was just one of those lucky guys, just like Larry Silverstein, that just,
didn't go that
had
day.
an appointment, had to be there. Had to drive my kids here or go to an orthodontist or a dermatologist or whatever it was. And you'll also find on Rumble's SEC filings BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. And you'll also be able to confirm that Dan Bongino holds over $100 million, $100 million in Rumble stock.
How did that happen? How did he get all that?
I don't know. I just learned last night, Andrew Wilson confirmed that Rumble gave him a paid deal, a contract. I just want everybody here to understand what that means, just to put this into perspective.
Yep.
I am one of the Rumble OGs. I have probably to this day, but definitely for the first several years of Rumble's existence, had the largest organically grown Rumble channel on that platform, meaning that there was no backside help to grow my audience. There was no auto subscribe feature like there is for a lot of other people. In other words, when you sign up for a new Rumble account, you're automatically subscribed to a certain group of people. I never had that. I was never put on the front page. I was never put on the home page. I was never put in the editor's picks. I onboarded millions of people to Rumble through my work during the days of COVID-19. I was never paid by Rumble. I never had a contract from Rumble. I was never offered to be one of the premier Rumble influencers.
Right.
But you see people like Laura Loomer, she gets a Rumble deal, a contract. Who's the guy with the wide open chest and the long hair? Russell Brand.
Yeah.
He gets a contract. And now Andrew Wilson said last night, in one of the clips that I saw with Owen Benjamin that he posted, that he got a deal with Rumble, that he's actually paid by Rumble.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't help you to further solidify and identify who it is that Andrew Wilson is working for, that is the machine that is controlled by its investors, who are Dan Bongino and Howard Lutnick and Cantor Fitzgerald and BlackRock and Vanguard and Turning Point USA. These are the people who are giving deals to Andrew Wilson. So that should tell you exactly who he is.
Yeah.
And everybody here probably understands that. So I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah. Matt, could you ask Stu whether he thinks all the issues in the Charlie Kirk case are intentional and unfolding as planned? For example, look at the voices being raised. A real Candace Owens, future leaders in the making.
Unfolding as planned? No, I don't think so. I don't think that they planned on Mitch Snow being at Fort Huachuca. I don't think that they planned on the malfunctioning microphone. I don't know if that's what you mean, or if you're talking about if everything is unfolding the way that it should so that new people emerge. I don't know. I think Candace does a really good job at what she does. I don't think that she aspires political power. I guess I don't really understand how to answer that question, because it's phrased in a way that's a little bit vague. Unless you understand it, Matt, do you?
I mean, I think you answered it. I think it's mainly like people, they want to understand if this is like a government ran operation and it's a psyop, like how are all these holes? How are there all these problems and things that are just glaringly obvious to people with a freaking brain and integrity? Is that planned to make it sloppy? Or they're just unforeseen, errors that humans make along the way?
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I don't think that they care if there is a faction of people that question them, because there always will be. And that number of people is growing, where the eyes of judgment become the eyes of skepticism. And I think that lens is being used pretty widely by especially younger generations and the future of our country. And so I think that there is certainly a hubris where they kind of know, like, look, it's our game. We're running this shit. And I think that there's the arrogance that goes along with that.
Yep.
There's a little bit of cockiness, a little bit of confidence. So I think there is that. But no, I don't think that they wanted it to be the way that it was, which is why if you reflect on Brian Harpole's conversation with Sean Ryan, it always sparked my interest how many times he mentioned how important the autopsy was.
Yep.
And in the context with which he said that, he prefaced it by saying, we didn't want this to turn into another conspiracy.
JFK.
We didn't want this to be another JFK. Well, what do you mean? Why would it? He was cleanly shot in the neck with a 30-06. Why would that turn into a conspiracy? Why would you be concerned about that exactly? And so I thought that was another tell. And these people are not the best liars, but they come from the breeding grounds, and they don't have to be super well polished. They just have to be willing. Yep. And then they get the cover. When they slip up, they get the cover. Yep. And then there's always like another narrative. And then there's a lie to go on top of the other lie. And then when they get caught telling that lie, they just tell another one, and then they lie about their old lies. And that's how you build the empire of lies. And that's what we live under. So, yeah, I don't think that they intended for it to be sloppy. If the microphone does what it's supposed to do, and there's the sound of a gunshot and Charlie is dead, and you could clearly see that something happened on his chest with the video, and Erica Kirk isn't super bizarre, and Mitch Snow's not at Fort Huachuca, I think a lot a lot fewer people
Yep.
are risking their reputations on big platforms to say any of these things.
Yep.
There would have been, obviously, because what happened wasn't a rifle to the chest.
Right.
It wasn't a rifle to the neck, and it would not have been a 30-06 to the chest, is what I mean.
Right.
So even if the lie, I think that there obviously would have been a faction of people that would have questioned it, but big people with with reputations to uphold, I don't think are taking that risk if it's clean.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was designed to be sloppy.
Yeah, I agree.
You'd be naive to believe, though, that they don't just kind of go, well,
what are you going to
I
do?
mean, what of it? Yeah,
Yeah.
what are you going to do about it?
What are you going to do? Yeah, that was my take the other night. It's just that part of this is also just like in your face, like, so what? We got all the power. What are you going to do? Tebow, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being our voices on this. Thank you, Tiffany. Dee Dee showed a pic of Tyler Robinson with a scar on the corner of his mouth.
Oh, Diligent Dennison.
Oh, Diligent Dennison.
I haven't seen that. I'm assuming
that new?
that's who the comment is talking about. I haven't seen that. I'll definitely go check that out. But yeah, I mean, whether it's a scar or a chin or no chin or buff and twink or left-handed, right-handed,
Right.
I mean, it's clearly not Tyler Robinson. So in any video where you can actually make someone out, it's not the person that they're telling you is Tyler Robinson is not. And then in the other video where they're telling you it's Tyler Robinson, you can't tell who it is.
Right.
Because it's just a blob doing a military crawl with a rifle in his pants and a screwdriver somewhere else, who we never see stop to actually use a screwdriver. So when did the assembly and disassembly occur? And you never see a shot being fired, and you never see a rifle. But you're just supposed to do this black magic and convince yourself, like, well, they're telling me Charlie Kirk was shot, and they're telling me it was from a roof, and they're telling me it was this guy that they keep showing me on TV. So that must be that guy, and that must be where he took the shot from. And okay, you're supposed to, like, I don't know, black magic is supposed to fill in where common sense was supposed to be, I guess. And then the screwdriver is like, I would say probably a really big part of the so-called overwhelming evidence that they have against him. It's a piece of physical evidence with his DNA on it, although be it deteriorated. The more prevalent DNA is Lance Twiggs. Somebody mentioned to me today that some of these federal assets will grow their hair out, marking kind of like how long they've been an asset. Lance Twiggs has some pretty long hair. But then even like, let's go non-conspiratorial. Okay, we'll get away from the long hair, and the symbolism will be their downfall, which I do believe is true. I believe that there is a huge humiliation ritual aspect to all of this, and that they just flaunt it in your face and they sexually get off on it. But the screwdriver, if it's so important, like, how could you forget where you found it?
Yeah, they initially found it in the wooded area
by the firearm, and then Kash Patel goes on Fox and says, no, we found it on the roof. So like, two different agencies, conflicting stories. I think you would probably know where you found the piece of physical evidence that links the person who you have in custody to the roof, and you don't even remember. You can't get that straight. And where did he use it exactly? Like, we don't see the screwdriver being used. So when did this assembly and disassembly happen? It couldn't have happened in the stairwell, because they certainly would have shown us that video, right? Couldn't have happened in the parking ramp, because they would have shown us that video. I don't know where it happened. We just never see it on video.
When he
and
said
then the firearm has more prevalent Lance Twiggs DNA on it, but they tell us that it was in his pants. Well, if he was, dressed in all black on a hot day with the sun shining and sweating, wouldn't his DNA be more prevalent? I mean, it was just shoved down his pants.
90-degree day that day. Yep. Makes no sense. Yeah.
And then the cop who finds the screwdriver lies. He lies in court by saying that within 5 minutes he had crime scene tape of, but then there's aerial footage from a local newscast that shows the crime scene tape never existed.
Yep.
So like, this guy is under oath lying.
Yep.
And that's the exact moment that his body camera went off. I use the same body camera. I know how annoying it is when you get to below 15% battery on those things. It makes it unavoidable to recognize.
Yeah, it vibrates.
He would have known. Yeah.
Yep. It beeps.
It
has a red light.
vibrates. The ring turns colors. It goes from green to orange and then to red and then to flashing red. And it's like beeping super annoyingly and it's vibrating. And you have plenty of time to get it to a dock. And
Yep.
on that docking station, it acts as a charger and
Correct.
the apparatus that uploads
Yep.
to the cloud, which is hosted at a place called evidence.com. And I use that. I still have an evidence.com login. I still have access to all of my body cam. That's what I should do. I should go back in and get all of my, I was so pissed off when they deleted my YouTube because of all my bounty hunting videos that I had published there. It never occurred to me I still have access. I should go get those and like run them as some special or something. There's
That'd
a
be
lot of really
cool.
great shit on there. Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Give you a behind the scenes look at what I did.
Those
I missed that actually.
Those Axon body cameras hold a charge from like 10 to 12 hours or 10 to 14 hours, right?
Oh, it's even more than that.
Okay. And
Yeah, no. Like you can
7 minutes.
Yeah, and depending on, you know, like what your job is with a department. So like if you're a patrol officer, you're probably turning your camera on and activating a lot more than if you're like a canine officer, because canine officers have actually, I take that back. Canine would not be good because canines initiate a lot of traffic stops as well, and they do it for suspected like guns and dope or whatever. At least they're supposed to.
You
I've got a lot less faith in. You activate on calls, yeah. But like an investigator wouldn't be rolling around with their body camera on all the time,
right?
Somebody who's assigned to a security detail would only activate it in the event of an emergency. And I would say that an assassination that you're responding to constitutes somewhat of an emergency, at which point you would turn it on and you would know that it was on.
Yep.
It's just the battery dying is just and look, I can't prove that the battery didn't die, but I would just say that based on my first person experience in using those Axon, that exact body camera for as long as I did, it would be impossible for you to not be aware of that.
Yep.
And it would be something that you would most certainly recall and that you would absolutely pay attention to if you were a guy who was looking for evidence in relation to that assassination. That job is critical, and you found the most consequential piece of evidence. You can't remember where it was, your battery went dead, and you lied about the crime scene tape.
Yeah.
So I hope to see the defense like really pick that apart. Because there's holes all over that, that testimony, that story. I mean, like, who even believes that Lance Twiggs is a furry or a tranny at this point?
No.
Transgender.
Yeah, no.
Who believes that right now? Because that's not, I don't think that's the same person that you're describing being in a relationship to this person that you're alleging to be the assassin.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah. Guys, your motive is pure. Your explanations are truthful and succinct. You are pro-America. How dare you? Thank you, Zamet. Let's see. What do you think of Milo's arrest and deportation?
I think it wouldn't have happened had he not been questioning Israel.
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't have happened had he not been questioning Turning Point. And I also think it wouldn't have happened had he not gone after Laura Loomer, who is now on X taking credit for his deportation. She literally said that she called the State Department and that she called the FBI, and she's claiming responsibility for his deportation. You cannot talk about these people without consequence.
Yeah.
And they will weaponize every single apparatus, every single independent piece of machinery and weaponry that they have, and they will come after you in every way that they can when you start questioning or criticizing them. They will do it. If deportation is on the, and by the way, you know, we knew that deportation wasn't going to stop at unsympathetic brown people on college campuses.
Right.
You know, over the fall. We knew that was going to expand, and now it is, and pretty soon it'll be you and it'll be me, because although be it was in jest and I was picking up on the sarcasm, yeah, how dare you is going to be the attitude that is anti-America at this point.
Yeah.
Because again, you can't draw a line of distinction between America and Israel, and they've actually made it official. So that's not even being hyperbolic.
Yeah. Freaking A, dude. Making me rethink Rogan and his role with Elon. I don't know what part we were talking. Were we talking about Rogan?
Maybe just either Rogan hosting Wilson. But I think he did a good job pushing back on Wilson. Rogan is like one of these Tucker guys who knows he knows, and then he kind of pretends not to.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of actually an interview that Rogan did with Mel Gibson. Did you ever see that one?
Yes.
And it was funny because it was like Mel Gibson was going, he was telling some stories about Hollywood, and then Joe Rogan comes in and he's like, I've noticed that there's like this stigma about Christianity in Hollywood. And it's like, you can talk badly about Christianity, and like Hollywood really dunks on Christianity. And I'm just like, it's like I don't understand where that's coming from. Like, what do you think it is? And I'm like, well, this is Mel Gibson, a prolific noticer, pattern recognizer. I mean, this guy took all the arrows for Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
Who dared to depict Jesus Christ in a positive light in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I can't believe he didn't just say it.
Yeah, I know.
Instead, he played along and he was like, yeah, you're right. I don't know what that is.
I thought that was
and it's like, why even have the conversation? Like it's so obvious. Everybody knows that both of you are very aware of what's going on here.
Yeah.
And the same thing is with Tucker. It's the shtick. Like, really?
Yes.
Like, you're kidding me.
Yes.
And it's this like shocked, taken aback, like,
huh?
Spare me, bro. Like, I know that you know these things. So yeah, there's when you say questioning these people, like it is like they know, and there's, I don't know, they seem to be on the right track. I'll say that.
Well, and like now we know Buckley has come out with multiple takes on this, and we know him and Buckley talk. So I mean, I'd love to know. I'd love to see them in front of a camera have this conversation, and because we don't really actually know what.
And so many of these conversations happen.
For sure.
It's on all of the big platforms. It's on all the blue checkmark accounts.
Yeah.
And there's like this attempt to be like coy, and it's like you're not doing yourself any reputational favors.
Correct.
And I just care more about my integrity than anything else.
Yeah.
So
comes across fake.
Let's just be honest here.
Yeah.
Or just say, you know what? I have a platform that I want to keep, and I know that going down that road could jeopardize that. And so I'm going to choose to focus on something else. And what that something else is that you could talk about without talking about the elephant in the room, I don't know. I haven't found one of those issues yet. Yeah. But maybe it's, you take up a trade or a hobby. You do like horseback podcasting, or you go out fishing, or certainly there's something, I would imagine, but
you can
in good
teach
faith,
you how to fly fishing lures. He can make his fly fishing lures.
Yeah. But in good faith, you really can't talk about anything culturally, spiritually, politically
important.
You can't talk about any of it without, discussing Israel and its influence in our country.
Nope.
And I say that knowing full well that Israel is a construct, but I'm also sensitive to the fact that this is not my show and it's not my platform.
You're good. I appreciate you. Yeah. It was never even supposed to be Palestine, bro. They wanted to buy Uganda and Argentina. Israel was their last choice. So to say that it was
Uganda, wasn't there a story? It was Uganda that was like executing homosexuals, right? Yeah. And so I had said it was at the time where it was like Donald Trump was either just freshly elected. I think he was just freshly elected. And Rick Grinnell, he like came after me about my homophobia, I guess, or whatever. I was a bigot and I'm a hateful person, I guess, whatever. And Rick Grinnell like came at me on X. And so I had posted like, I don't know, like what my presidential administration would look like. And I had Rick Grinnell on there as the U.S. ambassador to Uganda. And it was right at the time that Uganda was handling their business. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
You
Yeah,
didn't like that?
I've always, no, it's just like, you see these countries. Have you heard about Bangladesh?
Yeah.
They kind of had the blueprint for all of this.
Yeah.
And they were unarmed Zoomers
Yeah.
that like ousted their tyrannically Zionist prime minister, which was a huge white pill for a lot of people, for me anyways. And unsurprisingly, it wasn't reported anywhere. I mean, that's
Yep.
kind of a big deal, isn't
Yeah.
it? When
Yeah.
millions of college students like overthrow their government, you would
Yeah.
think that would be really big news.
They don't want people
I
getting
guess,
any ideas.
yeah, and they did it unarmed. And I guess now she's living in New York. She's Jewish. She's living in New York, and she's like got this long-term relationship and a long history with Vladimir Zelensky, who has like mansions in Miami and condos in New York. And it's like that this is the president of Ukraine who adds another Y to the end of his name every other week. It's just these people are just so fake. But anyway, yeah, Bangladesh, these people, and then like the military was answering to these Zoomers. I guess I haven't checked back in to see where that ever ended up, but it's just amazing what can be done when people unite.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And that was one of the things that Charlie was doing too. And after World War II, they did a study as to what was the like building blocks that led to the Nazi Party and a charismatic leader. They identified nationalism. They identified these things like united people. And so, like, I don't know, my opinion is that Charlie had a lot of those characteristics, right? He had the movement of the youth at his disposal. He was, for the most part, he was pro-nationalism. He was a very charismatic leader. And if he would have continued to change on his views, he would have posed a very significant threat.
Wow. You just drew a pretty dangerous parallel, but I respect it. And I will just tell you that, the conditions in Berlin and in, like Weimar, Germany, are pretty parallel to what the American people are facing now. Maybe not quite so bad. I haven't seen mother-daughter prostitution teams on the street corners yet,
Yeah.
There probably are, and you can probably pick them up on some internet website.
Rabbi
but
Shmuley.
yeah. But you don't see that. So maybe in some areas it's not quite as overtly, degenerate and perverted and gross. But certainly you can understand why millions and millions of people would support a rise of somebody who had, proposed remedy for that. And why the National Socialist Party became what it was. And you can understand where people are at and their support for that. And I think that, you're right. Anybody who wants to put their country first, anybody who wants to fight filth and disgusting crimes against children and humanity is going to be supported in a world where crimes against humanity are kind of the headline in every story.
Yeah. We got two left. Supporting critical thinking and free voices of America. Hoping for more future collabs with you. God bless both of you. Thank you so much, Blazer. I just want to remind everyone, Christ is king. The truth will always come out. If anyone is worried or feared, we know how this all ends. Trust in God. He's always got you. Trust in him with your worries and thoughts. Pray for everyone seeking the truth. Also, roll tide.
Go Braves.
There you go.
Yes. Christ is King. You got to point to the cross in everything in your life. I couldn't agree with a message more wholeheartedly than that. All glory to God.
Yep. And he didn't give us a spirit of fear. So, all right.
No, fear is of the devil, and that's exactly who it is that these people are trying to bring back right now.
Yeah.
With the building the building of the temple and the sacrificing and the burning of heifers and the playing in the ashes and all of that is to like literally bring Satan himself to earth.
Yep. Literally.
So,
remembering Erica saying it was a beautiful day for Charlie to go to heaven. Yeah, I know. And she said that when she looked out the window that was in the article, as she was flying into Orem, she looked out the window and she saw the beautiful blue sky and the clouds. And she said to herself, this is what he was looking at right before he died. Oh, yeah. And then, yeah. Yes.
and we prayed.
Yes. And we prayed
to our sovereign God.
Yes. You cracked me up. Roll Tide in Vegas just became a member. Thank you so much, Roll Tide. All right, bro. That's all of the ones that have to do with
just became a member to me or to you?
To me.
Okay.
I can't see your side. I'm gonna after you hop. I'm gonna pull up all your stuff. I'm gonna plug all your stuff before I end.
I'll just make it really simple for you. Can I plug myself?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you guys want to support my network, if you want to check me out, we do $9 a month or $90 a year, and there's a whole bunch of perks that go along with it. We do like off the record segments on Fridays. Actually, we do a Zoom roundtable. There was like 60 of us in there today. We were hanging out for like 3 hours. It was kind of like this. It's a meeting of the minds. It's like a strategy thing. I'm really always interested in other people's perspectives. I'm one of these guys that reads comments. I read the chat. Like if you guys have seen me looking over here and up here, I've been reading the chat. I'm super in tune to that. And so like, that's really important to me, having a two-way conversation instead of always just like me talking. And so stewpeters.tv is the website that we set up that points you to my locals community. And it's kind of cumbersome. It's a little bit clunky because I don't have access to platforms where it's easy to subscribe like YouTube. And I just don't. So I've had to work with what we have. Locals has been very supportive. They're never going to censor me at all. And other than having to sign up for like another social media account, which people don't like actually use really a lot of times. I mean, we're in there and we do off the record segments and behind the scenes content and interactive live streams. All of the archives are there. Everything I've ever done since July 31st of 2020. You'll get early access to my documentary films. We do monthly giveaways. If you're a supporter of the network, you're automatically entered 5 times every month in those giveaways. This month on the 31st, this Monday, I'm giving away a Glock 43X 9mm. We're arming our people. I think that's pretty based.
That's based.
And so, yeah, I mean, and I hope to move that to every week. And then, I mean, as the support grows, we'll be able to do that and facilitate, maybe it'll be 365 guns a year because we need to be armed. We need to be able to protect ourselves. So in exchange for all of that, you support the network, and it's $9 a month or $90 for the year. And right now, between now and Monday, I'm running kind of like a little, please come and try me out. Little special, so chill that real quick. It's $5 for your first month. So if you guys want to support me,
this is it, right?
I appreciate it. Yep, that's where it is. And you can do, as you can see there, either annual or monthly. And there's also a give once feature. So if you're already a supporter or you feel like we're worth more than $9 or $90 a year, I think you can put any number there up to 6 million. I think is the number that they were really stressing. I think it's, it caps at 6 million. or 271,000. I don't remember the exact number, but if you've got a bunch of cash laying around under the couch cushions, and you want to support a real one, we appreciate it.
I was going to see how far to let it go up. Yeah, it lets you go up pretty high.
Yeah. So, and it's tough because, billionaires, they don't probably want to give millions of dollars in that way, because I'm not one of these scam nonprofits. I'm not hiding a bunch of shit. I'm not running a racket. I'm just running a business.
Yep.
And I'm trying to stay moving, and I'm trying to do more work and better work, and bring Sean Hibbler on as like a full-time documentarian. And the thing that I really have been laser focused on, is trying to figure out in-person conversating in decent sized venues where people can get together in person and exchange ideas and lay out conversation. And I'm a big proponent of fellowship and in-person communication. And, obviously that was extremely effective if you look at the Charlie Kirk model.
Yep.
I don't think that college campuses in our country are going to be really excited about a Stu Peters tour. So we have to get a little bit, creative in our venue selection. But these are the types of things that we can do if we get the appropriate amount of support. We can be really, really powerful together. And, I'm willing to lead as far as I can. So if you support me, that's what I intend to do with it. It's to grow our influence. It's to expand our message, and it's to empower our people.
100%. And I'm actually I didn't know you had this, bro. I didn't know that you had. I didn't know what Locals was. I've never heard of it until tonight.
Yeah, it's just like, it's another one of these social media companies. And so again, it's kind of clunky because you got to sign up for an account, and you got another username and password. So, but there is like a chat room there. So that's kind of a nice feature. We have a 24/7 live chat, and I go off the record there a lot. Like if I've got something on my mind, I'll just grab my phone and start live streaming with an open-ended live chat there. And so that's kind of just, it's all part of it, but it keeps us around.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't even have to be an and/or thing because it's so cheap. You don't have to cancel your Netflix if you love groomers. You don't have to cancel your Disney if you must have them. You don't have to cancel your Hulu or your Sling so that Jewish propaganda can be slung into your living room every day. It's only $9 a month.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually going to subscribe after. I was going to do it here, but I was like, I'm going to have to put in my information. So I can do that while we're on the show.
Check this out. So today, Mitch Snow showed up in our Zoom roundtable.
Oh, no way.
And you can only do that if you're a supporter. So I'm like, Mitch, you support the network? And he's like, well, of course I do. Like, yeah, you've been like the only guy with a big platform that has wholehearted supported us, checked in on me, checked in on Amy.
Yep.
Of course. And so then, of course, everybody really enjoyed hanging out with Mitch. He's a funny guy. He's, he's a great guy to hang out with.
Yeah. You
want to talk about a guy that has been pushed, man. He has been pushed in every way, and they are really, really weaponizing every single aspect of
like the court system,
evil to come at him. Yeah, the court system, everything. I mean, this guy, he's going through a lot. So, but anyway, that was kind of cool to see. Even he is like supporting the network. So it is a rapidly growing community of people who now are engaged every Friday. That's a relatively new thing. I've only done it for 3 or 4 weeks now. I think today might have been our 4th or 5th. And we started with 15 people, and now there's like 75 people. So it's good. And there's a lot of really based people with a whole lot of perspectives and information that I hadn't heard yet. So I really enjoy that. I'm a conversationalist. I would rather do this.
Yeah.
To be honest with you,
Same.
I would rather do this than that.
Yeah.
But I recognize how important that is.
They both are.
So yeah,
I agree. Well, dude, thank you so much for joining tonight. I appreciate you every time you come on.
Yeah, I stayed over time, and it was my pleasure to do it. So I appreciate the conversation. Thanks a lot for having me. And your chat is amazing too. You got a great community going on. So hat tip to you for that as well.
Thank you so much, dude.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye. All right, guys, I'm going to continue on. All right, because I have to go back to the top because there was just some like gifts and stuff that I didn't get to. I was trying to just make sure I got to like all of the actual like questions and comments that were for Stu. I was trying to make sure I didn't keep him too long. He's on the East Coast, so holy smokes. It's almost 2 a.m. his time. He stayed way longer than he had to. Wow. That's insane. That's Stu, dude. That's awesome. It's so late his time. He didn't have to do that. Thank you so much, A-Train, for the gift. Oh, Crystal, thank you so much for the gift. Crystal's the one that sent me the video in the beginning that we played of Erica Kirk being super sus and weird, as always. Crystal Smolin, if you're on X, go follow Crystal Smolin on X. She's got a great handle. Or a great profile that she's always posting. She's finding stuff that other people aren't finding on this whole thing. So she was the one that grabbed the video today and sent it to me. All credit goes to Crystal. So thank you, Crystal. You're the best. Let's see. We got Cookie or Koki Moki. Thank you for the gift. Momos. Thank you. Thank you, Fab Mom, for the gift. Wait, clapping. Seal, thank you for the gift. Let's see, we got. Thank you, SLR. Here we go. They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. Yeah, some people don't. Thank you, Matt, for this podcast. What a great guest. Stu, hit the like, folks. May God bless everyone. Yeah, before I still got stuff that we can finish up with. We're not done yet, but just before everyone leaves, please. We had 1,300 people. We had 1,500. And I know Stu is gone, but before you guys leave, can you please hit the like? Oh my gosh. Wait, hold on. Please hit the like. There can't only be 45 likes. That can't be true. Oh, okay. No, we got 1,000. 1,100. That's still 300 off the mark, but thank you for everyone that's already hit the like. Anyone else that hasn't hit the like and subscribe, please do it before you go. It's the best way to help support the channel for free. All right. I appreciate it. MVP, Anita Knapp, Heather Klein, thank you so much for the gift. Cynthia, anyone asked why the security set up the tent? Yeah, we all asked. There is no good answer. Brian Harple and Dan Flood should have been with Charlie Kirk at the restaurant entrepreneur interview in Salt Lake City. There's no good explanation as to why Brian Harple and Dan Flood were setting up the tent. However, and if they're part of this whole thing, which in my opinion they are, they had to make sure that the tent was scoot over to the left because the Sorensen building sticks out. So let's see if I could show you guys real quick. There's a couple reasons why the people that were in on this, in my opinion, would have had to have set up the tent and to set up the platform that Charlie's chair was sat on top of in order to get the correct line of sight. And in order for them to be able to say that it was a makeable shot. All right. So here we go. All right. So Charlie was not, if you take this center, the peak of the bottom of the menorah, which it actually is a menorah, by the way, and you go straight down the middle, Charlie was not right here. Charlie was set up over here, okay, over here. And now let's go here, okay. Yep. Okay. So this corner is where the supposed shooter was. In order to make this an even plausible shot, okay, Charlie, see this roof right here? This corner sticks out. Look. Okay. This is where actually Eagle Boy was set back. So back here. This sticks out. This would have been in the way. All right. If Charlie was dead center, Charlie was not. He was off over here. Okay. And then he's up on a pedestal and a chair up, which brings him up, which then makes it in their mind, plausible shot. In my mind, not a plausible shot. But at least they're able to say it's plausible, which is ridiculous, but whatever. Let's see. Here we go. The security detail did not unholster their guns. Nope. No, they didn't. You're right. Question. Have you spoken to Candace about this case? I have not. I don't know. I don't think Stu has, from my recollection. Definitely be a good question to ask him next time. Yeah. I have hair in my eye. Thank you for the gift, A-Train. And real talk. Thank you. I'm driving faster. Thank you for the gift. Making sure I got all these. Thank you for the gifts, guys. Thank you, Chris O. Christian. Maduro's son went all Zio. He sure did. They have Mexico, Colombia, El Salvador, Argentina, and of course, the USA. Yep. May America Get Awakened is my MAGA. Oh, I like what you did that. That's great. Yeah, we need a different acronym instead of Make America Great Again, because they're destroying it. Stu is the icon. Yes, he is. Does Stu know his Psalm 32, 8 through 9? Does Stu know this? Psalm 32, 8 through 9. Very key to our Tim. I don't know what that means. Matt and Stu are true patriots, national treasures. Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Fantastic episode. Thank you for the mic drop. Thank you for these gifts, guys. Making sure I'm not missing anything. And then here, Roll Tide in Vegas. I like your dogs. Your dogs are cute, man. Support Stu. I did the annual. Great content. And I could use a Glock. Vegas is crazy. Yeah, I'm actually signing up the moment we get off of this, because we all should support one another. Period. End of story. Because we don't even know how long any of our content can be available on YouTube, on Rumble, on Kick, on Twitch, on anything. That's why it's going to be important for me, the website that I have, so to get set up on where we already have, like, let's see if I can show you guys. The blacklinebrief.com. There we go. There we go. And then eventually to be able to have like subscriptions and our uploads and do lives and stuff, potentially in the future. So please, well, this one doesn't have anything available yet to do that, but on my Rumble, you guys can check out my wait, if I go to here. So if you guys want to subscribe to my Rumble account, the Blackline Brief, be great. I'm also on Twitch, Kick, Spotify. Let's see. Spotify. We're on Spotify, the Blackline Brief, and then YouTube. We have a Blackline Brief Clips. Where is it? Well, that's weird. I know I'm subscribed. That's super weird. It's just gone. Oh, there we go. Why is it? It says I'm subscribed. All. There we go. So if you guys haven't done so already, please head over to my Blackline Brief clips page and subscribe. These are just all ways to help support me and this community, because you never know when YouTube could, I don't know, do something to this channel. And so that's why we're trying to always have other channels set up just in case. You know, and it's also for other people that maybe can't do very long form videos. What we're going to start doing is going to be doing like 10 to like 20, 25-minute clips over there, which still allow you to get like a good portion of the show, and not super shorts. Like that'd be like TikTok. And I'm eventually going to be doing like lives on TikTok and specific lives just on Twitch and on Kick and Rumble. There's only so much time in a day right now. All right, Honey Butter, the vid with Buckley Walkaway podcast. Check it out, Matt. I covered it. What do you mean? Go back like 3 videos. We did a live watch party. Sometimes I worry you guys don't watch this show. Because let's see. Let me pull it up. Literally, we did a live watch party that night. We did it. Obviously, that wasn't directed at anybody specific, but let's see. Oh, I can't go this way. This is go to my channel. Okay, here. Live. Here. Here it is, right here. See, Charlie Kirk watch party live. Buckley was right there. All right, my back is cramping up bad. I have a pinch in my upper left hand, my upper shoulder blade. Let me make sure I got through all the super chats, guys. I did. All right, you guys, I love you guys so much. God bless you guys so much. Stay safe. Get a good night's sleep. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Probably 2 shows tomorrow, maybe just 1. Keep an eye out for the link and for the time. I love you guys. God bless you guys. Take care. Bye.